You guys ready? Going live. Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday, July 13th, 2026 meeting of the Orono Town Council. I'm questioning why people are here in the audience, not at the pool, but we're happy to have you. So roll call shows that Councilor Larway, Hardison, Marks, Demerit, Powers, and Baker are here. Councilor Quinn has notified us by text he should be here any moment. So we'll get started. First, the second item on our agenda is always agenda review. We have a chance to look ahead at what is on our agenda, ask questions or add items. I do have one placeholder to add, but does anybody else have any questions or anything they want to talk about initially? No? The town manager has provided us with a placeholder setting a and so in front of us here are desks, and we'll talk about it later in the agenda if we agree to add it, but it would give us the authority to call a public hearing on August 10th if we need to regarding a bond for the public safety building following today's discussion. So any objection to having that in the hopper if we need it? And for now, leave it at the end of, do you want to leave it at the end of the?
It says the first action item.
Yeah.
It would be the first action item, Dan. I think that's important because otherwise, well, to me, it's important.
Yeah, let me see, how does it fit? So go. Yep, I think that would make sense. We're gonna have a conversation initially, right? So we're gonna walk through the different alternatives and then we'll have that. That makes sense to me. Okay,
Where's the discussion part happening?
well, I guess we'll take it on. Clint, you envision us taking that we take up this action item. That'll be where we discuss kind of where we are on the cash management, those kinds of things that we've been kind of looking at. Okay. Jacob, does that make sense to you? Yep. Okay, great. Great. All right. So without objection, we'll add that to the agenda. Item number 3 on our agenda is approval of minutes for our June 8th, 2026 meeting. And can I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion, suggestions, edits, changes? All those in favor? That's looking nearly unanimous for minutes. I'm sorry, John.
If it's for the minutes, then yes.
Got a boy. All right, the minutes are approved unanimously. Okay.
You guys, but
One of each.
One of each.
We just didn't get.
Item number 4 is
Totally
public
understand.
comment. It's a chance where people have a chance to talk with us, the town and the town council on items that are not on our agenda. Do we have anybody either in the audience or if you're here to speak on an agenda item later in the agenda, you'll get all the opportunity. But is anybody with us who wants to talk about something not on the agenda? Anyone online, Cody? All right, we'll move past public comment and move to presentations. Discussion items 5A, and I may try and keep this a little short, but it's an important conversation concerning council goals. So we are in our process. We have, we set goals at the start of every year. Sarah, do you have them right there? Can I? Yep. We post them, we link them at the top of agendas. And for those looking for the abridged version, they're bulleted are at the council goals at the very top of our agenda front page. But this would be an opportunity, Sarah and I talked about it, and this would be an opportunity we're planning to do a report back to the community that we'll have in the Fall Observer for people making space in their production plans for the Fall Observer. But it's something we want to bring to the council as well in terms of how we've done on these goals, where we think we've got opportunities. It won't be exhaustive, but it'll be sort of an update on what we set out to do at the start of the year and where we think we are going into and it sequences nicely, and Sarah, please jump in here, but I think it sequences nicely with our plans for the 360 questions and also just sort of our council year that culminates in an election for new councilors. So anything anybody would like to raise in terms of topics or suggestions?
So, sorry, there's going to be something in the next Orono agenda, Orono. Sorry, I can't think. Thank you.
Observer.
I was going to say Orono Crier, but
Yeah.
The Observer about our goals and where we as a council think we are in achieving them.
Yeah, sort of our report, our self-evaluation that we put out, and it'll be published and it'll link up with the I don't know precisely to the day when it links up with the 360 survey, but it'll be out in the community as we start thinking about our next council year. And it'll be a chance for us to kind of reflect on where we are. And I think I would work with Sarah and Clint to kind of put a draft in front of you that we could all kind of work on collectively, like we've done like with the town manager's evaluation. But this would be a public document as opposed to his evaluation letter, which is not. So go ahead, Sarah.
I just had a question, Dan. Are you wanting us to go like goal by goal, or are you wanting us to take a look first at the goals and then the Your Voice Matters and then the Orono stops? Or how do you want us to do this conversation? Because they're all part of the goals, like the goals cite
Sure.
those other two.
Sure.
Do you want us to just jump in anywhere, or how do you want us to?
Let's do it document by document quickly, see,
Okay.
and we'll raise it for questions. Keeping in mind, we've got a very,
Yep.
robust agenda for tonight, and it's our only meeting for July. So let's talk just with the goals. The first bullet goal is long-term financial infrastructure planning. And the progress we're looking to make there. I think we've taken some good steps forward, but that's an ongoing process as well. So anybody have anything they want to share, reflect on?
This is one where I feel like we made a lot of progress. I felt like the budget season this year, and Jacob could speak up and others, I'm sure, but I felt like it was a ton of progress this year on the long range planning in particular. So I thought we did well in this.
I agree.
Okay, tip of the cap, pat of the back on financial infrastructure planning. Will still be reflected in our report to the community. Efficiency and improving efficiency and transparency. We're about to take a big bite of the apple of that later on in this meeting with the council policies and procedures document. We've been doing, on particular tip of the hat to Rob and Andrea and especially Shelley Crosby and the work we're doing on ordinance review committee, where we're going through just pages and pages of ordinances and getting them updated in terms of how stuff has changed at the state level and how policy is implemented at the town level. So I feel good about that. Sarah? Yeah.
I just have one thing on this. I wanted to highlight, one of the things we mentioned was posting all council and municipal and departmental policies online. Obviously not the safety ones for the police that would need to be kept confidential, but we've made a lot of progress on that. If you on council haven't gotten recently on the website for policies, and probably no one in the public often looks, but staff has really been uploading a lot of information. A lot of progress has been made. Personally, I know it's something we've been talking about as a council kind of since I came on, so almost 3 years. I don't know. I would like to ask staff, is it possible to set a goal with a deadline for when whatever policies are not there yet are uploaded? Most departments look like they're there, but I noticed, like, I think Parks and Recs maybe isn't there if they have some policies, which I imagine they do. Most are there. I saw library, I saw police, I saw fire. I don't know if Public Works, but is there a reasonable deadline to just finish that goal and be able to say everything we currently have is up there?
Staff goal in the work plan was October.
Perfect. Thanks.
This October, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else on that front?
Yeah, I think there's a constant balance between transparency and efficiency, and I think that we can continue to work on improving our efficiency. And I'm specifically thinking some of our discussions at the last budget hearing or prior budget hearing about requests for additional information, how those come in, and being, mindful of the staff's time in responding to those items. And there's some parts of the policies and procedures manual that I personally believe are not helping to improve our efficiency. So I think that's an area where we need to continue to work and be mindful of.
Okay. Efficiency process overreach or just maybe, okay. All right. Anything else on that one? Moving ahead, we got 7, 8 minutes left on this topic. Enhance and expand community events and engagement. Maintain and look for opportunities to expand community events within supported budgets, foster engagement, inclusivity, with a special focus on strengthening the partnership with the Penobscot Nation. monitor, promote use of community spaces and parks, ensuring spaces are actively utilized and easily accessible for diverse programming. Okay, Sarah?
There's a lot of things I think we've done well on this. Like, I'm very excited about the ongoing partnership with the Penobscot Nation and the McCoy Museum Plan, which is hopefully coming back to us for a vote soon. So I think we've done a lot. I feel like Orono Festival Day, big kudos to the counselors who launched that and the staff who are taking it over this year. The only part I would question is the part about promoting the use of our community spaces. I feel like we're doing that with parks. I guess I'm not convinced that we're doing that with our other spaces yet. And I do think that's something we could spend a little time thinking about with staff in the coming months about how we fully promote some of our indoor spaces that are pretty underutilized right now.
Andrea, you want to talk about potluck? Oh my, so ice cream social yesterday. Who had the most ice cream on the council? This guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dan. No, the potlucks have been greatly attended. And I'll be reaching out to town organizations and groups for anyone who would like to host potluck next year. And yeah, it's been fun to plan, and it's been fun to meet a lot of the new different people.
Excellent. And they seem to be steadily attended. I mean, they're nice events, which use some of our public space, as glass half full. All right. Economic development and housing. Finalize, begin the implementation of Orono's new comprehensive plan. Check. Talking about that as our next presentation item. And prioritize housing availability and economic development efforts. Progress will be measured through actionable steps and be reported to the council year annual goals report. Anyone want to take a stab at that? We've got some pretty exciting things coming up. Things in executive session, things in so.
Yeah,
Jacob?
I would say that I'm cautiously optimistic. When we were first coming up with this goal a year or two ago, I really had in my mind what economic development at the municipal level meant, and then reality hit, and we've got a lot of really good irons in the fire, and EJ and the rest of the staff have been doing great work. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
And which will cause a few conflicts. Hopefully in the future, this will cause conflicts for me. I'm friends with a couple of developers, and I'm hoping that they, I'm encouraging them that we're a town that wants to see healthy and good development, especially in housing. And I think we can continue to promote that as individuals if we know people, and then as a community. I think as people start developing, and I think I know from them that the reputation here is not great for development, but I think that is changing, and I think that is going to be a positive thing going in the future as we try and make sure that we keep our costs down both in housing and in taxes. So I'm excited about that, and I hope that we can continue improving in a healthy relationship with people who want to develop housing here. Very cautious.
Good to be measured, Matt. It's good to be measured. All right. Good. That's good feedback. Quickly onto the service promises. We've got the Orono Stops initiative. We just thanks, I assume, to Cody for handing around the new Orono Stops stickers for all the counselors to remember him by and remember the initiative by. Those are within existing budgeted resources. Yeah. So I feel like we've made a lot of good progress here. I think we'll have a kickoff at the start of the school year. I think that'll bring some visibility to the work. We've got a demonstration project that cost me another couple seconds getting to the town office tonight, and deservedly so. So what's interesting about traffic and driving is that everybody's an expert, right? We all experience traffic, and you look at Cody's got a great Orono Stops post up on the Facebook page, and everyone has many different opinions about whether it makes sense and what else we could be doing in terms of safety and building a culture of roadway sharing and safety in town. But it's drawing attention. So that's good. Anybody have anything else? We got an Oak Street project coming together. at that intersection.
We'll be hearing more about it. If you are interested at the, in the community development meeting, update, we'll be hearing from Mitch Stone, our intrepid, leader in that realm.
But swear to God, this agenda is not like a pat yourself on the back agenda, but it's just kind of shaking out that way that a lot of cool things are coming. When you only have one meeting in the whole month, it kind of comes out that way. All right. If nothing else on that, we'll talk about Your Voice Matters. And the concept is that we're working to have a process that welcomes people and helps people be successful when they engage with our community. And same, I guess, Sarah and I, we were talking about this about a month ago. We are like, geez, we haven't done any of those videos. And then bam, Cody and Megan dropped the pool video, which was just a perfect, like, these are the 14 different rules for, one bounce on the diving board, even if you're the chair of the town council. So it was, yeah. Megan was training doing a training with the lifeguards, and I stopped by on my bike and said hello. They had no interest in hearing from me at all, by the way. So as should be the case. Anybody else have anything on this piece? Sarah?
I had one small thing. I was noticing, well, like today, I'm so happy to see all the community members here who I think are mostly here for the library project. And what I love about that project, I love the library to begin with, so that's wonderful. But what I love the most is how citizen-led that's been and how many members of the community have taken that on and really led that project. So I was noticing, we do have a line about in bringing ideas to life that highlights committing shared resources to support citizen-led initiatives, which the library would certainly be one of them. And we've certainly done that with the library. I'd love us to perhaps incent that a little bit more. And I know Jacob wanted to do away with the mini grants, even for the tiny little amount of money. But I felt like when we had them, I know you did, and we did, we all did. I think I voted with you on it, but I would say that what I noticed this year without them is there were a lot less of those community-led initiatives coming forward than we had the previous year. So I do think it's something for us to think about as a council in our next budget season, that it's a very, very small amount of money and a big bang for our buck, because then all these community members do all this volunteer work to create programming that we're not paying staff to create. So I would encourage us to look at that again next time around.
I do think too, it's a give and take in terms of when to pull the trigger on community engagement. And, like we had, I think, one of the most community engaged searches for our new town manager of any municipality or any institution now, and kind of they're having kind of a public decision-making process. But it's a lot of work, and we have to understanding. We've got a good turnout tonight. But we have a lot of council meetings. We get very little turnout, and we've got to be mindful of how much, when to pull the trigger on really trying to spur engagement, but also understanding people just, they'll come when they need to come or want to come. So
just one follow-up on that. I just want to say that the mini grants were one thing that didn't create any extra work for folks. They were like, here's a project, here's a tiny bit of seed money, you go make it happen.
Yep.
So for me, it was not work really and, impact.
So by that context, the library could be the biggest mini grant we've ever done, right? The 2-point-something million, and then you guys go take it from here, run with it. All right, we are done on time. Anybody else on these things? So we'll draft something up for probably our first meeting in August, work with Cody on deadlines for the Observer for the fall, and get something together for the council to look at. Okay. Next presentation is a comp plan update, and I'm going to, I guess, kick it over to you, Clint, to start.
Yeah, so staff and I have had many discussions, council's asked, but we're coming into the fall, unfortunately, even though it is mid-July. And there's a few things on the agenda, but for the process, we've been working on some of the comp plan, but it just was recently approved, but we weren't waiting on that. We're getting things aligned. So the first step to that is amendments to all the ordinances. And there's a lot of those that need to be done. The other portion of this is how we're going to use as a reporting mechanism. Staff right now is working towards building a template that will keep those updated. So it's simple. I'm going to use the term dashboard, but it'd be more along the lines of a dashboard. So we can just monitor our progress. Quick, simple, tells you started, done, or complete. And so the goal for this year is just to get that in front of the council at the fall. There will be no significant measures of what we were able to accomplish in the past 4 months. We just got it approved. We're going to start going. If there's some easy ones that we can identify, we will do it. But it's more of, this is the template for reporting. We're hopeful there'll be feedback from the community and the council on how we will report out. So fall of 27 would be the first significant, how did the first year go kind of report? Because we did agree it's a fall update. As part of this, the two things that are on the consent agenda are contracted services. So we all know Isabel Exley. She's now Isabel Lee. She took on a new career move and opted to not pursue that career after a short time and went back to private consulting. So we've reduced the amount of time we're using her. We put a model in with staffing where we can do more ourselves. So we're really focusing on her on the high level planning only components. Orono's always had a full-time planner. Contracted planning was new. She is a certified planner. We're looking at different ways to train more staff in planning, but this allows us to have that. So the two areas when you see on the consent agenda is she's going to work on comp plan implementation for us and tracking. And then the other piece of that is the big piece of that is all the updates we need to do to all our ordinances for that. And then as larger projects come towards the planning board, if they do rise to the level that the planner needs to review it, the resources staff will have. So both of those are on the agendas for approval. They were in the budget. That's why they went to the consent agenda to execute those contracts. So that's kind of the update of where we are on the comp plan. We are very dedicated to the message we heard that don't lose track of the progress we made. It is a 10-year commitment. So every year taking a little bit of time to talk about how we did seems like good use of a meeting a year to talk about. But again, the dashboard, we'll figure out how we'll put that together. It will live somewheres where people can see that at any given moment or time. I wouldn't call it a real-time dashboard. It will be updated at some frequency, whether that's quarterly or semi-annually, I'm not sure yet, but it will get updates.
Okay. Any questions about that? Good. Council Marks?
I did just one. Were you saying that the process for updates to council would be only once a year in the fall?
The formal agreement was that every fall we would have a report to the council as to the progress on the comp plan. Yes.
Okay. I think it was also in the discussions on the council policy and procedures manual that we would get verbal updates twice a year on the comp plan, January and July.
Conversational.
Yeah,
Yep.
just a conversation, not like a report. So I just wanted to highlight that for council too, because I know it was a request from the community that there be more regular check-ins in about that than just yearly. So we did build that into that process. And I know you were part of that, Clint. So just wanted to call that out.
Okay, I would, when we do these comp plan updates, both the formal one and the conversational one, I'd like to suggest that we make a point of inviting or the people that served on the comp plan and give them a heads up that that's coming. I did send the comp plan committee an email this afternoon as I was preparing for the agenda today. And Phil, if you're watching from out of state, I know it was late notice, and we'll give you ample, we're gonna work it in. So when we do this next time, can we please make sure that we invite, I don't know if it's a formal role, but when we, particularly the formal meeting, I'd like to make sure that the comprehensive plan committee, who spent all that time developing the plan, get an invite to be aware of what's going on, can help us. Sure, Sarah?
And I had one other question just about how we're tracking going forward. I know there used to be a committee that was called the Comp Plan Implementation Committee, and that got combined into what's the Ordinance Review Committee now. So I guess I just want to highlight also that it's on the charge of the Ordinance Review Committee to be working with staff to be sure that the ordinance changes that need to happen are moving along in a timely fashion. I don't know if Rob has anything to say about that.
No, I suppose we'll just need to check in with Shelley to see how best to fold that into the ongoing work of reviewing ordinances as part of the regular schedule. I think we can talk about it at the next meeting to figure out how best to approach that.
Okay.
It's exciting that it's at the stage where there's stuff to begin implementing.
All right, anything else? All right, I'm gonna move us out of presentations and open a public hearing A ordinance to authorize and approve the following capital improvement projects: the waste pollution control facility improvements, the library expansion project, I don't know how that got on here, but the library expansion project and the public safety building police station construction project. Said projects will be financed through the issuance of up to $9 million of the town's general obligation bonds. Clint, do you have anything you want to present here, or do you want to just open it up to the public who
I mean, we've had a lot of meetings. I think I'm happy there's other information later on that may relate to this, but I don't think anything specific to the 9 million in front of us. I
Okay,
did clarify the Bangor Daily, 6 million is sewer. That's the ratepayers' cost. 3 million is local, which is a property tax bill payment. So it's not 9 million to a property tax bill. It's 6 and 3.
6 to the ratepayers.
Yep.
And 3 to the, yep,
Yep.
okay. Do we have, ratepayers feel an awful lot like property taxpayers?
Some of them are the
At
same.
the end of the month, it still feels kind of like the same thing.
Not
but-
all taxpayers are rate.
I know, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, I will open the public hearing. Come be heard. James?
Good evening. Thank you for having the public hearing. And I'm going to start like I always do. Actually, sorry, introduction. I'm James Jackson Sanborn. I'm an Orono resident, and I am the president of the Orono Public Library Foundation. So I'm going to start the way I always do when I talk to you by thanking a whole bunch of people. First, people I want to thank are you all. Thank you all for your personal donations, as well as for the support over the years that you've provided for the library expansion. I want to make sure that I thank members of the Library Foundation. We have some members of the Library Foundation here today, the Friends of the Library organization. We also want to thank the town staff, town employees, library staff, and also want to make sure that we express gratitude to the Capital Campaign for their work. And we have some representatives from the Capital Campaign here as well. So I want to provide a quick update just on where we stand so that you kind of all know where we are. I think we were last here in, was it March or May? It was a while back. But since then, we have continued to refine and finalize the design plans and get those worked on with the architect and our building committee. We've gone through a third-party estimate, which thankfully this time came back where we where we were comfortable with it coming back. So that was great to know that we were right on the right track with that. We have been sharing plans far and wide so that we can get feedback and get people excited about the project. We've attended a bunch of events, including one of the potlucks. We had a booth at Arts Fest. We went to different library events, the concerts, and we've been getting a lot of contact with people who are really excited. Some of the best contact is with some of the really small kids who just get really excited about seeing the plans and wait a minute, this is where it's going to be. And it was really great at the last concert talking to some of those kids. So the really great news that I wanted to provide is where we are now with the capital campaign. So as of today, thanks to 468 donors, which is 445 individual donors, 12 businesses, 4 foundations, and 7 other nonprofit organizations we have raised 8.33 million. And we have less than 290,000 to go. We're at 289,792 to go. So we are feeling really excited about how attainable that is shaping up to be. And we do still have a number of, we're still waiting on some decisions on some corporate funding and some foundation requests that we've made as well. So I think that we're wrapping up really strong on the capital campaign. We are now conducting, hopefully you've seen this, a 31 Days of Giving campaign. We have a few more events that are going on there that's through the end of July to try to wrap up all of our fundraising, hopefully by the end of July. So we're really hopeful that we can raise that money through that. And finally, just looking forward, we're going to be working with Clint, the town manager, and our architects to set up the bid package and going out to bid. And that's when we will know even more precisely than the third-party estimates, what the final cost will be. But we're feeling really good with the third-party estimate coming in where it did. So happy to take questions, but thank you all. And I'm hope that everyone is here to support this process.
Fabulous update. Any specific questions for James? Thanks for all your work. Yep, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you all.
Anyone else like to join us for the public hearing? Doesn't have to just be about the library, but Matt's Spotify account is working here in the council chambers. Okay. Anyone else? All right. If that's the case, we'll close the public hearing, and thank you very much for being here, but also giving us some of our time back. I feel like it's a good way to do it. All right, this takes us to acknowledgements by council members. Let's see. Let's start, John. Let's start with your end of the table, and we'll work our way, and I'll go last.
Yeah, thank you. I have been in this weather trying to spend as much time as possible up at the pool, and have had the opportunity on several occasions to hear from other folks who are enjoying the pool, just how much they appreciated the work that went into it and what a beautiful space it was, and well maintained and well run. So just hearing a lot of really good feedback out in the community for the work the staff and our summer lifeguards are doing up there.
Excellent. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, just a thank you to everybody involved with making this town look like what it does in the summertime. From Megan and her group doing the pool and different events, Public Works, mowing flags, everything. Our gardening, flower committee, Orono beautification, whomever, all flower beds. So no, I think we look really good this time of year. So appreciate all the hard work that goes into it.
Matt.
Yeah, and just want to say thanks for it's a delight to be at Roundings Landing, and that pathway, the new pathway is great when I'm carrying my paddleboard down, and so I really appreciate that space, and I'm glad that we can all share in that.
I fell out of my kayak there just the other day. Somebody asked me if I was going to run for higher office, and I said no, and I just splashed myself. Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, just a thanks to MJ in particular for the work on Arts Fest, which was really enjoyable experience. And also to the Parks and Rec Department. I had a chance to need to get a family in touch with Parks and Rec with a bit of a complicated financial situation. And I'd never done that before. And I was really impressed by our staff and how well they handled that and the scholarship opportunities they have available when needed. So thanks.
Yep, Andrea.
I want to start first with an apology to Chief Merrill and the team at the Orono Police Department. We missed an opportunity at our last meeting to thank you for representing Orono at the Special Olympics. And thank you for doing that. And the team raised a little over $3,400 towards the Special Olympics. I also want to thank the Orono Health Association for sponsoring the June potluck, and Black Bear Mutual Aid Fund for sponsoring yesterday's ice cream social.
Okay. Rob?
Yeah, a couple. One, I've heard from so many community members how impressed they are with the way that the number of entrances into the water on the river look, all the work that staff did. It's beautiful and very accessible, and I think it's letting a lot of people make great use of our spaces around town. Also, I just want to acknowledge how probably a lot of people are feeling in the community as a result of the ice-related shooting in Biddeford earlier today. It's really painful. Maine is a gigantic small town. I'm sure many of us know people in that community, so heart goes out to them, and hope they're all feeling supported as best they can be.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. I want to echo what Sarah had to share about Orono Arts Fest. I think MJ and all the artists who participated, and it's a wonderful, June's a quieter time of year in Orono. We have so much going on so much of the year in our small town. But it was really just a wonderful series of events. So it's a hodgepodge of events that brought people into the downtown. And I think it's just a fabulous example of kind of us making sure that a couple years ago, a group, the Artsapalooza was, they volunteer fatigue, right? I mean, it's a lot of work doing an event year in and year out. And they decided they were going to be done. And we didn't want no to be the final word in Orono, even though that's how it's spelled. And we reached out and put out an RFP and got a great executive director, producer, and MJ Sedlock and she's done a phenomenal job, and it's something that I think really represents kind of the spirit that we have as a community. So with that, I will close that humble brag out, and part of the council part, and move us to the consent agenda. I've got one item. Anybody else have anything they want to pull off? Okay. Is Isabel going to speak if we pull hers off? Is she going to join us? And no? All right, fine.
Sorry, Dana. Should I in front of me?
All right.
I was just curious on the rezoning one. I think there's one about OBC and then there's one that follows it. I just would like to hear a little bit.
Yeah,
from
I'm going to
staff about
pull,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull order 26-143, so we'll turn that into an action item. I'd like to do that first as an action item if we could. Is that okay?
That include 124 as well?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
143.
142 and 144, 142 and 143 seemed.
Yeah, I
tied
think it's
together.
two that
Yeah.
need to get pulled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's pull them both then.
Thanks.
Okay. My question is pretty straightforward, but all right. Anybody else? All right. With that, take a motion to move the consent agenda.
Second.
Very assertive. Yeah, nice hand over there. Yeah. All right. All those in favor of the consent agenda? All right. That's unanimous. All right. Let's take a motion. I think these are pretty much in block, but I'll do a motion on order 26-142 first. Could I have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. Do you want me to ask my question or, so I had a question, I already got it answered, but I wanted to speak about, I want it to be shared publicly and then ask the council if we thought anything more of this needed to come. There's a planning board meeting, thanks EJ. There's a planning board meeting this Wednesday, and I think 55 abutters around this project have received notification of that planning board. And that is excellent. I was glad to hear it. And I just wanted to hear from EJ what the thoughts were in terms of kind of making sure the neighborhood's aware of what's going on.
Yes, EJ Roach, Planning and Economic Development Manager. With any ordinance change for the town, the process to do that involves several checkpoints, both with the planning board and with the council. So at this week's planning board is the first opportunity to discuss these changes in the ordinance. We're adding a definition and changing the zoning. So with any planning board meeting, the abutters within 500 feet of a parcel that is impacted gets a mailing indicating what is being discussed at the planning board, because we want to increase the participation from the community and specifically the abutters because they're directly impacted. So this Wednesday is the first opportunity for the planning board to discuss these changes that were recommended through the comp plan and have been on the sort of agenda or the radar for a long time to adjust some zoning changes down for OBC. Currently, they can't grow, they can't expand. They used a vacant building to come into town and have been operating such. But this is an opportunity to kind of adjust and refine some of the allowed uses, add a definition of brewery, which is not in our ordinances, but it probably should be. So this meeting tonight kind of gives us an opportunity to set the public agenda because the planning board will recommend changes to the council, then the council has to have a public hearing. So this is kind of a 4-meeting process that kind of kicks off tonight because there's some statutory deadlines and time to provide public notice. So the way the meetings fall and the calendars fall, that's kind of where we're at today.
Will we be asked, well, if we have our public hearing on the 10th, will we be asked to approve it that night? Or are we going to kick it off another 2 meetings before we finalize?
There's 2 meetings.
Okay,
There'll
so
be
the
a meeting.
August, yeah, the second August meeting. And then I guess, do you feel like it's MDR now? It can't possibly be an MDR use what they're doing. I mean, are they grandfathered from when it was a concrete plant or something like that? Or how does that work?
Correct. They were allowed to come into that vacant facility.
Yep.
With the understanding that eventually the zone kind of morphs to allow to adjust for the use. But that's why we look at it through the comprehensive plan. We look at other surrounding zones. You have the ability to do contract zones, which are specific. This is more in line with a sort of general flow of how an area should be developed. So you want to try and have like parcels be like use. And depending on where it is in town, there's some other C1 districts up closer to Main Street. So, and it's a long range planning philosophy, knowing where the planning board is in the comprehensive plan 10 years down. 10 years down the road, we want to be able to understand where these areas are going to develop and if we need to allow for some other uses, which any new use still goes in front of the planning board and has public input and public discussion. This makes it a little easier for an existing business to expand and grow.
Do we feel, and I know, I heard back from Clint by email today. Do we feel like as a council that the planning board notice is sufficient for the neighborhood to know that this process is underway? They've gotten a postcard. Of course, our agenda is going to be published as it always is. Do we feel like, given that, I don't necessarily, I asked the question, not knowing that for sure, I got the answer, and I feel like that's a good notice for people locally. But if we feel like we should do something more, now would be the time to bring it up.
No, I think it's sufficient, and also given that, yes, we may be changing the zoning, but we're not changing the current, it's not like we've got a residential development that a brewery wants to, that any industrial company wants to come into. So I think those factors. I'm comfortable.
I have a question that might inform my opinion on that, which is just, I'm not entirely clear what the other parcels are that are listed, 26 and 28 and 29. I don't know if it was A or B or C. When I look at the map in what's marked in yellow, that's all the existing OBC, correct?
There
Or-
are two parcels that are actually three parcels that are existing, belong to that part of OBC.
Yeah.
And then there's another parcel that is adjacent that would likely benefit from having that also be designated as C2.
And so when I look at the map in the packet, the three marked properties in yellow outline are the existing OBC properties?
There's four, actually.
There's four.
Yeah.
One's really, really
I'm
small.
trying to see.
That little
Oh, that
rectangle one.
teeny tiny one. Okay. And which are the new ones that are not currently OBC that would be part of this zone change? Which one of these?
It's a family from New York or an owner from New York or somewhere.
The one that's square.
Square one at the bottom?
Yep.
Okay. And the abutters on that are included in that 51 for sure who've been notified, right?
53.
My concern is just, I remember when I first came on council that there had been a zoning exception made for the property on the far side of the bridge. And there was quite a lot of upset in the neighborhood about that. And I think it had been connected perhaps to the change that happened when, and you guys would know on staff better than me, but sounded like perhaps it had been connected to when Tyler Technologies went in, that adjacent property had been rezoned at the same time. I don't know. And I sometimes think these adjacent property rezonings are important to people in the community sometimes to know about. So I see where that one is. That's definitely included in the 51. And people get a notice saying it's not just a change of zoning for OBC, but also this other property, correct?
Yeah, they know that these properties are being discussed at the meeting. We've listed out the properties.
With a map that shows them where they are.
The postcard doesn't have a map, but it refers people to our website that has the agendas, maps, all the information that you have received.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Clint? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, DJ, great job. If I'm just to add in, I mean, sometimes with the conversation, I'm new to Orono, although it's just past my 2nd year anniversary, but zoning comes up a lot. And again, I think people remember zoning changes. There's no expectation that your zoning would never change forever. The community changes, the people that live here change, our needs change. I mean, I can name off 5 types of businesses at the top of my head that didn't exist when I started my career as a town manager. So zoning maps had to be updated to include where they should or shouldn't go. So, you know, and the other piece of this is that by changing zones, you're also creating buffers. So you want to make sure that other people that live in the neighboring zones or within that zone know what to expect. So my understanding on this one, a lot of this was an agreement of a pre-existing use that goes back decades. It was a good use that was less impactful, my words, I will own those. And now they're trying to make that fit within the neighborhood for the long term so that people can understand the expectations. So that's why those come about. I don't mind putting that out there. I'm not speaking for or against it. I'm just kind of sticking to the facts of what's occurred in that neighborhood.
Council.
Yeah, when we have these kind of zoning changes, because I'm sure they do occur frequently, but I haven't been part of a lot of them yet, so I have a lot to learn. Apart from the postcard that goes out to the public, is it like on our social media or something that there is a zoning change happening, that there's a public hearing? Do our public hearings go out on our social media in general? Cody could maybe answer. I don't know. I'm just curious, what happens with public hearings? How do they
Public
go?
hearings have to be advertised. So they're published in the newspaper under state law. They are posted on our website as well. And it is part of the planning board agenda. So anybody that's following those agendas or subscribes to the wanting the information can get them those ways. Other than that, that's pretty much the limitation. We don't do a Facebook post usually on things like this on social media. It's more administrative, and we try to keep Facebook informative and light, I guess, my own words again. And this seems more procedural.
Yep, there have been certainly times where the planning board has drawn quite a crowd, and sometimes not. And that's, the postcards I think are helpful. And for me, I think this is a pretty I mean, I think OBC is an important part of our community and a part of what makes Orono. And I think this is a good process. We'll go through it. We'll talk about what the rules are and have a public conversation about it. So it's no longer trying to fit kind of a new use into it, it's not a concrete plan anymore. So let's get it figured out, get the rules right, and do it together. And in support of both the neighborhood and a business that's important to our community. So I like it. Thank you. All right. So that was, we're on order 26-142. If there's nothing else, and I guess since this is an action item, is there any public comment? Okay. And with that, anything else on order 26-142? All those in favor? Okay, that is, we're calling that public hearing. That's unanimous. And can I get a motion on order 26-143?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Order 26-143 is approved unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, now we're gonna do, thank you. Really good. Know what you do. Thank you. Now take an order for, what number are we gonna make it? Thank you. Order 26-160, an order setting the date of August 10th, 2026 at 5 p.m. for a public hearing to consider an ordinance authorizing and approving an additional $1 million for the Public Safety Building Police Station construction project approved by the Town Council on July 13th, 2026. If approved, the additional authorization would increase the total bond authorization for the library expansion project, waste pollution control facility improvements, and the Public Safety Building Police Station construction project from $9 million to $10 million. Said projects would be financed through the issuance of up to $10 million of the town's general obligation bonds. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? No? Okay.
Hey.
See how fast we can spend $1 million.
No, so procedurally in community and council as well, this is not a change that will occur tonight. This is to propose an order to add another $1 million to the ones that you're about to consider. The reason being is there's a lot of information I shared out in advance. I would like to prepare more, but again, the fiscal year ended June 30th, just 13 days ago. So we've been working at these, but we've been identifying since last December, when you had the meeting to discuss all these bonds and what the town's financial position was in regards to unassigned fund balance. We have a new proposed unassigned fund balance policy coming forward to the council, hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days. It's in its final versions. But again, the thresholds are pretty clear. We've set our benchmark at 2 months of operating of our unassigned fund balance of our total revenue and expenses. So in other words, when you look at revenues and expenses for the general fund must match, that's roughly 25 million for this year. 16% is just right around, just a little over 4 million. So when you were putting those together, we had an audit that said we were sitting closer to the 5.5 million. We had spent some down. We also learned that some of our unassigned fund balance was sitting designated for a project and just needed to be updated in accounting. It was a large capital project. So as we look at this year's fund balance has us down around 4.4. And when you take that 4.4, if we spend down another $1 million on top of the other allocations we have, we would be below the minimum threshold. It's my job to identify that to you. These policies are in the pending status, but you are coming into these as we speak. The $1 million I'm discussing is the $1 million of fund balance or unassigned fund balance that is going towards the police station construction. I know you had a lot of discussions on this, but again, I wanted to make sure that the council was aware as we move forward into these, what those impacts could be. It is early on, and if you do call the public hearing, we would want more information in that packet. One of the impacts to cash flow is if you forecast out over a year from now, in August of 2027, not this month, not this next month, but a year from then, we could be in a negative cash flow situation where we would need a tax anticipation note. Rough estimate could be roughly around $1 million of a negative balance. The reason August is low is not unique to Orono. That is the last month of our fiscal year before we receive property tax payments. Payments come in September. So the bills go out, then they start coming in. So that is when our largest revenue source is at zero, for lack of a better term. And then we get those monies in and we will operate the town for the preceding year after that. So that's where that timing comes in. From the other 11 months, there's some highs and lows, but we never dip below zero at all in those 11 months. Orono's cash flow is in a great position. We've got great choices to make. The reality is that if we do spend down the fund balance, we'll be below zero. And that policy says that we immediately got to adopt an action plan on how we'll replenish it. That's going to take a lot of other staff work and ideas on how we're going to rebuild it back up. You have an opportunity now to determine whether you want or don't want to go below that threshold. So it comes down to two choices. Choice one is you could bond additional funds. Option two that I would like to put forward to you at this hearing is you don't have to. We could actually set up a tax anticipation note, or what I would call a line of credit, so that if we drop below our operating funds, go below zero, our bank that we work with would have funds available that we could draw on, that would be approved by a process by the community and the council, that would be sitting there for whenever we want. So in both situations, you're borrowing money. One is for operating cash flow. The other one is to bond a project like the police station. Those are your choices. Those are the ones I have to present to you. What's here tonight is having a public hearing. You're going to need a lot more discussion, and I need a lot more than one weekend to plan on writing information for this council on what those would be. Staff, when reviewing this, identified it about Wednesday or Thursday. I've been aware of this as we've been coming into the closing of the audit, but until we finished our fiscal year, I did not realize it would be rising to the level of putting us under the minimum threshold. As soon as we did those numbers, we realized it would put us under it. And I thought at that point, with this being the meeting tonight, with multiple bonds being considered and other things of financial implications to the town, I needed to put this in front of you. So I appreciate the chair and the chair of the finance committee for hearing this and being willing to me to present this to you. I wish I had more documentation for you, but again, I have verbalized all the information we're trying to compile to get in front of you.
Okay. We
Okay.
appreciate, we appreciate the way that you bring, I know I do, I think I speak for all of us, that we appreciate your willingness to bring these kinds of things forward when you know them. And so we can have a discussion, here in front of the public, and make decisions. So what do we think? We've got, Jacob, you got some thoughts you want to share, or? Not to put you on the spot.
I mean,
but
I
yeah.
do, but I'm debating on, because I've known about this for
Yeah.
a few days, so.
Anybody have any
Let's
questions?
hear your other
Yeah.
thoughts, yeah.
Is there a chance, what's the actual probability that we'd go into negative cash flow next August? Is it like a 90% chance? Is it 100% chance if we just went with this, or is it like a 50-50 or a 30? Because and then if we don't borrow money, is there any cost to it? If we set that up, but we just don't borrow,
So if we,
So there's a lot of layers to this. First one is that how much can we come in at or under budget? Right now, we're committing 400,000 of unassigned fund balance every year just to create the budgets we are. That's been kind of the history of the town. I've talked to you an awful lot about, I didn't want to see that change much in the first 2 to 3 years as your manager. Part of why managers need to make at least a 3-year commitment to a community to work with them is to learn what town's tendencies are, what your actions do and how they impact your cash flows. This is in that learning curve for myself and your team as a whole. I would not want to put a percentage on the likelihood. I would just say that I would say without curtailing the operating budget this year for less spending, highly likely that we will need to borrow money if we use $1 million of fund balance. Is it a guaranteed? I know in life you never make guarantees on this. Things could change, things could happen. I don't know what we're going to see, but I would say, as I sit here today, a year from now, we spend down another $1 million, August will be in a negative balance situation.
how much of it do you think is the complexity? We're going to have 2 major construction projects underway, a third if you count the sewer project. How much of that uncertainty do you think is keeps you and Zach awake at night in terms of cash flow nightmares and stuff like that?
I appreciate the way that question was asked, and it goes back to something I said to you last November. Town of Orono is taking on 4 very large capital projects right now. the sewer line, a sludge press, both at $2 million apiece, funded through these bonds. So over 4 million, an $8.5 million library project, and a $3.5 million police station. That is a decade's worth of work, and we're putting them all in 1 year. That's a lot. I appreciate the situation the town found us in, but those are where we are and what we need to do. And on behalf of myself and staff, we're not concerned. There's no mistake made doing that many at once. It just is a lot, and it puts a significant strain on what we're doing. So I would, and from a cash flow, yes, that is important, because you got to remember, we got to spend down, for example, on the library, all the local money has to be spent first. All the donated money has to be spent first. Then we can draw on the federal $3.6 million that's been given to us. And so meeting those cash flow demands will put some unforeseens in the construction season. You're about to approve, hopefully, a timeline that will set the police station in place tonight. The goal is to hopefully have a library project started this fall, but we're still not certain until the bids come in and we know what the contractors will commit to. We're not certain what that schedule is. So, but yeah, definitely having that many projects and that much money going in and out is certainly a part of this problem.
For those watching at home, James doesn't look too concerned about putting us in this box. So yeah. It's a good problem to have. Yeah. Andrea?
This question is mostly from my still trying to learn and understand. You had given us a budget and council came back and said we wanted a dollar amount removed. Is this the cause for this because we didn't budget realistically and now we're facing those consequences?
I would not say that. No, they're different financial issues. I mean, all financial issues feel related, but no, the annual budget is set up. It's solid on its own and it will stand alone. We will raise enough money in taxes to make that budget work. It's how much cushion is in it. And I don't mind saying there's not a lot of cushion in your budgets. We budget very closely. And that's the correct way, in my opinion, for you to do that. Building in excess contingencies in operating budgets can lose public confidence in what you're doing. And I think we're in the right position. You're not doing that. And we're living within our means. And it's tough sometimes to live within our means when you have a community that has a lot of things it needs or wants. I'm here to help you weigh those out. You got elected to make the decision, and I'll carry them out once you do.
Councilor Marks?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Andrea. I think that this is more related to our bond discussion that we had as a council, where staff did come in originally suggesting that we bond more, and then we argued that bonding down. It didn't have to do with what we funded in the budget. And I will say that from my perspective, I'm not interested in having to take out a line of credit and being worried about cash flow. I don't think that makes good financial sense. I don't think it's prudent. My guess is that the rate on those is going to be higher. I know when we talked about the bonding, one thing that wasn't clear to me, and I just want to reiterate again and be sure Clint confirms that I now am understanding this correctly. What wasn't clear to me during that vote is that although the bond would cost us 4.5%, if we keep $1 million of that money in our bank accounts, we are getting 3.25% on that, is what I remember the number being given to me. So in the end, it's costing us 1.25% to do the bonding. And I have a hard time imagining, and Jacob can correct me if I'm wrong, that we're going to be getting a line of credit or anything else for any kind of rate similar to that. So to me, it doesn't feel financially prudent to be not bonding for the amount we need at a lower rate and then paying higher interest rates on lines of credit that we think are quite likely to happen. And I think we've been hearing from our town manager for the last few meetings that are choosing not to bond at the original suggested amount is also going to curtail our ability to move forward economic development initiatives on housing and other places where we may need to make an investment initially in order for a return to come back for more money than that original investment. So I'm feeling like we have under bonded, honestly, and I'm not real comfortable with what that's going to put us in a situation. And I would really like this to go to another public hearing so we can have a more in-depth conversation about it with more information from staff. And please, Clint, correct me if anything financially is wrong or changed since those numbers.
No, again, I just would add that that's part of the packet I want to build to show you the consequences. Roughly $1 million, you know, we'll be at a higher interest rate if it was on a line of credit than what we'll be bonding at. The bonding cost for an additional million, I'm roughing them out, 70 to 80,000 is right now where I'm kind of, I've aligned it into, but I want to confirm that with, for a year in a debt service payment. And, you know, if the line of credit sticks in and we need it for more than a month or two, and depending on what the interest rates, that could quickly be $15,000-$20,000 a year. Rough estimates, just not putting the math down, trying to get it on paper. So, you know, there's those other unintended costs that come in with it. We lose interest on investment. We have the cost of borrowing. And then and then you don't have the debt service payment. There is arguments to be made, the debt service payment weighs in differently, but I'd like to get that information to you so you can see it. There's no clear answers here. It's going to be a tough decision to the council, and I will share what I find out.
Any other, Jacob?
So my thoughts on this, and I appreciate Clint, you talking to me on Friday. So I mean, first of all, whether we do this or not, to the wider people out there, this doesn't impact our approval for the library, the police station, and all these projects, nor does it impact the support or hopeful support for the bonds as listed in the current agenda. This would be an additional $1 million in bonding. And so I guess my thoughts on this is that I would like us to forego that $1 million and have either a tax anticipation note or a line of credit in the event that we may need it, which we don't know yet. And the reason for that is twofold. One, I think from a public process and transparency standpoint, it looks really bad. And if I was a member of the public following this, I would be a little more apprehensive about our ability to financially manage this town if all of a sudden, kind of at the last minute, we say, oh, we need to increase our bonding amount by $1 million. We've been talking about this bonding for the past year plus, and we've been talking about this amount for the past few months. And I think that's one of the arguments that I always fall back on when people, talk about how come I didn't know about this, or, the council making financial decisions without public input. Well, no, we've been talking about this for a year plus. What we're calling to do at $1 million, that is very short term. So I can't fall back to that argument. It is, it doesn't have a lot of transparency in my mind. And then as far as, line of credit versus bonding, my attitude is that, yes, the interest on a line of credit will be more than a bond. However, we won't pay if we don't use it. We bond $1 million, we're paying for that. If we have a line, yes, there will be some closing costs attached to that, but if we don't use it, we don't pay the interest on it. So I would like to see us keep the bonding limit where it is. And finally, as to the fund balance, yes, we likely will dip below our threshold. But that being said, during the next budget season, we will have a conversation about how to increase that. And maybe there are a lot of different ways that we can bring our fund balance policy up to, the minimum thresholds. I don't think this is worthy of doing another $1 million in bonding at what I consider the last minute. So for those reasons, I'm not in support of setting this hearing because I don't actually want to do this.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you, Sarah. So from a process perspective, we put this placeholder here knowing that we could amend it if we chose to. And the second an amendment, if we would prefer to go the line of credit, the amendment would read something along the lines of, Clint, go figure out what our line of credit options are and come back to us and present at the next meeting. We could also alternatively call a public hearing and ask for the line of credit discussion so we can make a apples to apples comparison in real time in terms of what those two alternatives would be for the town of Orono. So that would give the community more opportunity to assess what we're, doing, give the staff more opportunity to come back with us with information. So those are alternatives in terms of process. Those are things ahead of us in terms of we don't have to make a final decision on, we could both have the public hearing and still make a decision about the line of credit at the next meeting if we chose to.
Real quick, my thought on that, and again, if I'm the only one, then that's fine. I'll get voted down. But once this order goes on a public agenda, that in itself, I believe erodes trust.
I have something to say to that.
Sure.
I totally agree about the transparency, and I would have liked a world in which we had this conversation sooner, but I also think it's incumbent upon us when new financial information is brought to us to weigh the options that are there. And I don't feel good about the amount of detail I have right now about what the line of credit option is going to look like versus the bonding option. So yes, maybe it does make us look like we didn't know exactly what we were doing, and maybe we didn't. Right. And I think it's a good thing to step up when we're not sure if what we did was right or not and say, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We have new information. We should talk about it again. So for me, I at least want the conversation. I don't know how I'll finally vote because I don't have the comparison between the two options financially at this point.
I will say too, for me, the compromise we reached on the bonding back in December was, I thought, one of our best discussions, one of our best conversations. And I really liked that we, how we came together on that. We had some disagreements and arrived at something that, we could agree on. Information's changed. I think moving forward, when we talk about fund balance and use of fund balance for initiatives, maybe we ought to think about, how do we, if we're going to fund something, how do we replace the funds in a year? You know what I mean? Some kind of, we turn around and flip it or whatever we're going to do. But, I think I'd like to have both things in front of us, but and if that's the case, I guess we could approve this order, calling the public hearing, because you have to call the public hearing, and Clint and I can't do that all by ourselves, on a Monday morning. We need you all have to help us do that. So I think it makes sense to call a public hearing, but then also have it at the same time, a presentation discussion on the tax anticipation note. And then we can make a decision based on that. All the while signaling we are completely committed to these projects. And as we're going to vote on, hopefully, we'll see in a minute, but it feels like we're getting ready to approve those. So anyway, John?
Yeah, I agree. It would be helpful to have all of the information in front of us. And if the only way to do that and stay on an appropriate timeline is to kind of move this forward tonight, then I can be supportive of that. I wish that it wasn't the only way to do it. I guess I'm curious, and maybe this is something that comes on the 10th. You just said, having a plan to fill that, to restore those balances within a year. Wouldn't that be the consequence that we're kind of discussing here of if there is that shortfall in August, of having to create a plan to fully refund that balance? Is that
well, I think I thought from back in December, I thought the sentiment behind the compromise is, all right, if we lower the fund balance by using $1 million for the police station, there's less for us to just kind of toss at the whims and fancies of, I don't characterize it that way, and I know nobody else does, but that's kind of the simplistic way of, it would make the decisions harder. If we had less in the bank, it would make those kinds of decisions harder. And if we had some sort of, and I'm just thinking, as I often do, like, is there middle ground here, listening and learning from everybody? Is there some sort of process or policy we could put in place where if we go to the fund balance for some sum of money, obviously if it's a tax anticipation note, it's going to get paid back right away. It's as fast as prudently possible, right? I would assume, Zach, is that how you do it? Yeah, Zach's nodding his head. If it's fund balance and we decide to take $500,000 to fund the kiddie pool, complete the survey at the Nickerson pool, then we'd also, maybe the policy is we got to figure out a way within the next 12 months to put that money back, but
Did
Sarah?
Did we even have our fund balance policy in place when this bond vote happened? I don't think we did yet, correct? So I think some of this has been corrected and some of the problem has been what Finance Committee's been working on to build a fund balance policy, which would have told us we shouldn't fall below this amount and therefore we might have avoided this, right?
Yeah, and I'd have to look at the old one. I didn't run the numbers on that one, but I can do that if that's the council wants to see that comparison as well.
But I think we have taken steps already to avoid this happening, hopefully again.
All right. I will say we didn't, anybody, maybe those were way more than clarifying questions, and then we need to hear from the public if we're gonna, because this is an action item. Let me know, remind me. So I guess, it feels like we're getting somewhere, but is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard on this topic before we finalize it? Okay. Why don't we, anything else from anybody? Oh.
Um,
All right.
I don't
Well,
have,
I got stuff for you, but that's okay.
I don't have that much to add, just other than I think the concerns that Jacob's raised are serious and worth considering. However, I think I want to have the discussion. And as John said, I think if this is the way to do it, get on the agenda. And if people have feelings, they can share them with us and we can talk about sort of the fact that this is on the agenda so that we can do that comparison.
Okay. If that's the case and we're ready, why don't we vote? I'm inclined to suggest we vote on this order with the understanding that Clint, Sarah, and I will have, when we get the agenda for the 10th meeting, there'll also be an action item authorizing I don't know what the right term is, the pursuit of or the exploration of a line of credit. And we'd expect to have some additional information from the town staff on what that would be. Does that make sense, Clint? Make sense, Clint?
But Dan, we would actually hope to have that at the public hearing.
Oh, absolutely.
You're the way you worded it made it sound to me like it was coming after. So at the public hearing, we would want to see both. Thanks.
We would have an opportunity to vote on either the $1 million in the additional bond or the tax increment
Yeah.
financing piece. And with, as I understood it too, Clint, that the timing of this is such that we won't endure exceptional or extraordinary costs, given that it's coming right after 2 weeks or, well, I guess a month after.
We have a month to work them into the current issuance. There's month and a half. So that's why it's a good opportunity. Otherwise it would be a separate issuance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So with that, if we're done, I'm going to ask all those in favor of having this on the public hearing for the bond in our August 10th meeting. I got 6 in favor. All those opposed? Jacob's opposed. That's okay. Every once in a while, you know. All right. Thank you. Good discussion. And thank you to staff for bringing that forward. Next up on our action items is 26-145. Okay. Order 26-145, an order authorizing bonds to finance sewer system improvements and a tax levy therefore. Can I have a motion? Okay. I don't think there's anything. We already had a public hearing. Clint, you don't have anything on this, do you? Anything in additional? Nope. Any comments from the public on this action item? Any discussion from counselors? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Order 26-146, can I have a motion, order authorizing bonds to finance public safety building, police station, and a tax levy therefore?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Nothing?
I will add one thing, just for questions, and there's some things, if anybody's looking, the order that's on the agenda is a simple one sentence. If you do look at the full attachment, it's a fairly lengthy bond order written by our attorneys. If those that are very interested, there is a lot more that goes in behind these than those, but we did not reprint the entire order on the agenda itself. It's just the vote itself. Okay? And
Okay.
that's all 3 of these. Yep.
Is there any comment from the public? Any discussion from council? All those in favor? That is unanimous, 6-0. Order 26-147, order authorizing bonds to finance library improvements and a tax levy therefore.
Happy to make the motion.
Second.
Let the record suggest that Councilor Demerit move that one, please, if we could, no. All right, order 26-147. Any comments from the public? Thank you for being here tonight. Yeah, I got thumbs up. Any council discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That is unanimous, 6-0. Now I'm going to move on to, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone being here this evening. Order 16, is it 16 or 26? Ah, ha, ha, ha.
That's because I was on vacation.
No, that's right. Amanda was on vacation, so we know where the, all right. Order 26-156, order authorizing the town manager to execute all agreements and proceed with a guaranteed maximum price of $3,538,761 with Benchmark Construction for the construction of Orono Police Department at 56 Main Street. Can I have a motion? I thought we were order 26-156. It says,
Yeah, the benchmark contract.
it says 156, or it says 16-156, but it's second top of the, is it the third page?
Yeah.
Did I skip?
Oh, I don't have a 148.
All right, sorry. Hold on a second.
Sorry, the one online is out of order, or as a different order. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the online one. Using. So.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Whatever.
On my hard copy, which is, so was I was I okay? Okay. All right. Anybody who wants to serve as town council chair will decide in November. All right, order 16-156, Chief Merrill.
Good evening. So I think that we've had a lot of work has gone into this. And I'd say that I'm here pleased to present and humbly request the council's consideration for the gross max budget that I'm happy to report Jason. So Jason is the man in the teal shirt back here that's with me. He is the president of Benchmark that we've been working with for about a year now to get the renovations all squared away for the police department that we're hoping to put next door across the street. And through the process, we met in the winter with the estimated budget, and you guys approved authorization to move forward to get further information and more concrete bids. And Jason, before the holiday weekend, was able to get us all the documentation that we needed that said that his company is confident that with the gross max budget that is slightly under, for Councilor Baker, slightly under the gross max budget of $3.55 million.
I
They're
want for
confident
the
they can get
record,
us-
given that there's actually people here, that I am not nearly the stickler you all are making me out to be.
Former counselor sat in your chair too, and we like to give him similar jabs. So, you know, he chose a good chair. So we're obviously very excited and pleased to report that they think that they can do it on budget. The facility that is presented in the council packet, if you look at it, there's a more detailed AI type rendering that Benchmark was able to come up with. I think that's a little more, I would say, vibrant than the ones that we have here. So we brought some ones that we were able to get on poster boards just so the council could see them. They're also included in the packet too, but you know, in the ordering of the packet, we had the AI ones at the top because we were trying to create more campus appeals that you guys could get a idea about what it would look like. But these ones that are here on the poster boards are actual, you know, these are the ones that we brought to the planning board when we sought their approval and they requested it. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions for us or Benchmark. We're happy to answer them. But we're also very happy to report that you guys have had this on your to-do list. And this was the meeting that we've had circled on our calendars. I know the captain and I and the police department had it circled on our calendars. It's July 13th was the big day. So we made it, and we're happy to be here with a gross max budget that is on budget the town has set.
We need to get a, I'm sorry, I didn't get a motion ahead of time, so can we get a?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded? Great, Sarah. Sorry, thanks.
No.
Any questions for Chief Merrill or Jason?
Jason Jendrasko with Benchmark loves to talk to, so if anybody has any questions, he's happy to answer them. We don't bring them up here very much. They come up from Westbrook, so I asked him to
No,
be
I-
here in person today.
Super excited you're here. And I would say this, I would think, and Jeff Gordon's not here, it's probably, he gets credit for it, but I was really pleased that this project came through the planning board process. There's a planning board hearing on this. And as I understand, I can't say with certainty, but I am to understand that not every community runs its own projects through the same process the public has to go through. But, you know, good for us. And I appreciate the town bringing it forward and looping through the planning board process like everybody else would have to do. So that's, I think I met Jason there at that meeting. Any questions for Council Marks? Yep.
Just one small one on the visuals that are in our packet, the
Yep.
ones you were highlighting that look a little more realistic,
Yep.
AI generated, I guess. The one thing they don't seem to show is, I'm correct, right? That there are going to be some green space along the side that doesn't show on this AI generated and kind of shows there based on the trees.
Yep.
Because I know that's something the community was hoping was a little bit more green space there.
Yep.
There is some, right?
Yep. So, yeah, so Jason can speak to it too, but it was one of the things that we leaned into in the memo for sure. One of the things that was an item of discussion throughout this planning project was closing that upper entrance. And we were able to determine that that probably was in the best interest of the project as a whole. So when the project is done, the plan is to have from the sidewalk all the way to the back of where the garage bay would be, will be a strip of lawn and grass. And it's my understanding that as much as possible, we'll keep the trees that are existing because they are very mature trees. And, you know, our friend, the new public works director, I know she gave me a prod saying that she liked the trees in the rendering too. So, you know, to be good stewards of the land and the air, we will try and keep as many trees as we can throughout the project.
So in the garage vestibule, it's just like it's situated now, right? So the
Yep.
garage thing is the, what do you call it? The,
The garage would be on the backside of.
where the drive-through is now?
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Sallyport.
Yep,
Yes. thank
yep.
you.
So
Okay.
essentially the, you know, at a very high level, Jason's team will actually be removing that. And then some of the cost is actually reshoring up that teller window because of that teller window is getting support from the.
The existing drive-through canopy.
You gotta be on the
I'm-
mic or.
I'm taking my leap at being an engineer and I really have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, that's fine. Thank you for having us tonight. The existing drive-through canopy will be removed. And structurally, it's supported by an addition that was put onto the building that's not structurally sound and won't meet code requirements. So we will construct a new foundation system with a small bump out there and then construct the garage in the same footprint of that canopy. We will salvage the trees that are there in the front of the building and along the back side and left side of the building, and then create a lawn space on the left side of the building as well.
And no public parking, or is there public parking? Is there?
We won't have, so the parking lot as we'll have it set up, if you looked at some of the other drawings that we have, the curb that's there right now actually is going to get moved forward to allow the parking for our staff and
Yep.
our staff cruisers, which will shrink the parking in the front to basically just be guests to the police department during the day.
Sure.
And then I would not recommend us open it up to permitted parking because to some degree, our staff leaving out back here would allow us the opportunity to do more permitted parking out behind the public safety building
Perfect.
if we wished.
Okay.
So my recommendation to the town manager and the council would be that.
Yep.
Because it can be a little unruly sometimes, especially in the wintertime, getting people to move if they were parked overnight in the police department parking lot.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I would move them out back here.
Fair enough.
And we will be sending out, we've talked with our administrative assistant and the town, and we've been working with the permit holders. I know that was something that had come up before. The permit holders from the previous owners, we're working with them and we'll be sending out more notices to them to let them know that, you know, pending approval from the council, there will be a date that we probably will put out and we'll put out through social media that the parking lot will be closed officially 100% because we don't want any vehicles in there while they're doing construction, because obviously we don't want to take that liability on. So
Okay.
at some point, loosely interpreted, it'll be the end of this month or early August, maybe the 1st of August. We'll put Jersey barriers up there and just close the parking lot off to the public in general.
This is just pure curiosity on my part, but what are you guys doing with the safe? And then are you gonna make
It's
the
gonna be a
pneumatic?
spectacle. Jason would love to tell you what we're gonna do with the safe.
Yeah.
We're going to demolish the safe and dispose of it. It's, we're unsure of the weight and the structure of how it's been constructed. But Benchmark itself has done a number of financial institutions with these vaults. And so we are removing the roof of the building And in that process of when we demo the roof, we'll remove that vault out as well.
Coming out to the top is what he's saying.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Coming out to the top with a big crane.
We could use it as permanent
Right.
town council dunk tank if you guys are doing something, you know.
Auction off the vault for whoever in town wants it. Yeah.
All right. Any, we gotta have any other, these are clarifying, any more curiosities, you know. Are there any comments from the public?
Timeline, I just thought the
Yeah,
timeline,
I was gonna ask
construction
you about that.
timeline, we didn't hit that. Would you like to hit timeline? We're gonna
No.
put you in a box.
No, I won't. Our goal is to, we anticipate pending some of the permit approvals, to start in August, and then turn it over in the following June. So approximately just under a year from now to try to stay in line with the original goals set forward in the RFP.
This August,
Like, yes, less than a month from now.
Be a nice-
Goal.
little Orono stops announcement if, but anyway, I digress. I think ahead.
We are happy to do any public notifications that you
Thank
guys,
you.
the council
Yes.
wishes to have about this, because, you know, we're extremely excited about the process and the project in general. And I know that this is, Jason has expressed to us throughout the whole time that him and his team are very confident that we'll be able to get this project completed on time and on budget.
So, go ahead, Matt.
I had one more interesting question, just for curiosity, maybe the public would be interested. What's the square footage difference between where you are now and there?
We are about 5,200 square feet where we're going across the street.
We need to, yes.
I believe we're 4,000-ish square feet now, 35 to 4,000. So, and I have had, you know, it's a good question. I know Councilor Quinn may be able to help support this a little bit. I've had some people, actually, we've talked about this in the public, they think the building is very small. And what is surprising about that building is it is truly as much space downstairs in the basement as it is in the first floor. So the first floor downstairs is just as large, and with some of the design that Benchmark has come up with, they've been extremely creative in the design and layout of what the police department will look like. And we are maximizing every square inch of 5,200 square feet that we have in that building.
Excellent.
And it is definitely an improvement from where we are now.
Yep.
For sure. And we couldn't be more proud to stick a sign out front that says Orono Police Department have our own building. I'm not gonna lie. Side benefit, have a flagship
Yeah.
downtown.
Fire department comes after with the space you're gonna vacate. I know Jason's thinking about his next contract already, right? But
So,
See how to help the town.
yeah,
move to Orono, get out of Westbrook or wherever the hell you're from.
a
Yeah.
couple things, but did we miss the fact that we have 4 large projects as?
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm
Sorry,
just being as the leader that I am.
Yes, no.
Community, I'm just
I'm
making
do
people-
glad you asked. The capital improvement program, we've already started talking about, and we're trying to figure out timing, funding, how that would all come together, but we are looking at different pieces of that. A lot of work has happened there, so it is not, it's in a good situation for there. So how we reuse the space, don't mind saying publicly, it's my goal to reuse it as it sits, find the best possible use without having to do a renovation. I think that's the first phase of what we do, and if we can make that happen. And that's, again, where the firefight, oh, there's none here tonight. Great. So I'll have to explain that more tomorrow. No, but
I
that
think
is,
they're playing pickleball right now because I see him over there playing pickleball at the university.
and I do want to make sure to, I don't know if it got disclosed. Sorry, I stepped in and out. When you get done this item, if I could have a moment.
Yep.
Just to follow up on one other thing, but they are up for some additional grants, which would be
Yes, we
a
did.
big win for the community and what our overall cost would be. The hopes that it would reduce the local tax commitment cost to some degree so that we could have more money for future projects and other uses. But we don't know yet. We got to wait and see. Those grants could be, well, 6 months before we even know,
Okay.
and probably a year from receiving.
All right. Any more comments or discussion? I think we're getting close to keeping our commitment on a promise. All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank
So,
you all. We're
well
extremely
deserved.
excited. Thank you.
Yeah.
Unanimous vote. Appreciate it
You're welcome.
very much.
So the other item I wanted to just get a moment if I could, Dan.
Sure.
So I guess I'll start with a nice positive comment. The staff's worked well on this, and Jim Safian's our bond counsel. He's the attorney that drafted the orders we just did. So those were all in your attachments, and we put them all there. Orono is, from his explanation, is unique in that we have to have an ordinance in order to do these, which was shared and posted in our agenda as well. He is suggesting that that requires a 4th vote. that
What?
a fourth vote. We approved the three orders, but he's saying, no, that I misinterpreted, and I will own that there is the first attachment in the public hearing requires another vote. So I will let you take advantage of Amanda and how we number that and what we should do, but you should actually take it. You can open it and look at it yourself, but it's the ordinance approving bonded capital improvements. It's a full page with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whereases, and then a now therefore. And it is included. The public did have it, but he thinks that it needs a fourth vote for those three bonds.
All right, would that be order 26-161? Okay. First of all, I guess I needed to, are we okay putting that on the agenda? We gotta agree that all this. Yep.
Where was it before? You said it was already
Embedded
attached.
in the
It's
public
in,
hearing materials.
yep,
Right?
it's in the public hearing
Thanks.
materials.
Okay.
All right, so now we'll put that on the agenda as order 26-161. And can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And so, all right. Yeah, can you read it?
Sure, it's, take a second, but now pursuant to order 20, or whereas pursuant to order 2637 adopted March 9 of 2026, the town council approved the fiscal year 2027 capital improvement program. Whereas the fiscal 27 CIP includes bonded projects described below. Whereas by the adoption of one or more bond orders, the town council has or intends to authorize issuance of the town's general obligation bonds to finance a portion of the costs of said bonded projects. And whereas section 1.1.8F of the town charter empowers the town council to authorize payments and contracts for capital improvements to be financed wholly or partly by the issuance of bonds, provided that such action is made or approved by ordinance. And whereas the town council now desires to approve bonded projects to authorize and approve payment contracts therefore. Now therefore, following a public hearing duly called and pursuant to section 1.1.2L of the town charter, be it ordained by the Orono Town Council as follows.
Are we okay with the rest of it being part of the record? Okay.
There you go.
All right. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? You guys have been really active so far. No? I'm happy you're here. Any more discussion by council? Yep. All those in favor of order 26-161? Yeah. All right. That's unanimous. Thank you. And thanks for bringing that to our attention on the fly. And now we're back to $2,700. Just seems a little, anticlimactic after 3.8 million, but always happy to hear from Lori. We have order 26-141, an order authorizing the town manager to deposit the annual distribution of $2,700 from the Park Library Trust to the library construction account. I need a motion. Sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Lori?
Lori Carpenter, Library Director. Since 2005, the library's been receiving annual distributions from the Helen Park Trust Fund. Last March, or this past March, you approved moving the money that the town has been holding in that trust to the construction fund. So we just received our annual distribution of $2,700, and I'm asking that you approve moving that directly into the construction fund rather than any other fund at this point.
Yep. Any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public? Yep. Any discussion? All those in favor of order 26-148? It's unanimous. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick question. I think you might have missed an order. 157.
What's that?
Right before about the overlay, you skipped. 26-157, or we just,
Yes.
I don't know which version of the agenda you're looking
It-
at. Maybe it's fine. We're going in numerical order and 157 will come later.
I don't know.
Amanda, will it come later?
I don't see it.
Order 26-147 was an order off 57.
Yes, Amanda, there was an updated version. There was agendas items added. You probably went to the normal folder. We had to add one. So
Okay,
the posted
got it.
one is 26-157.
Thank you. I got it. So we're online. And is that the only one that I'm gonna miss? Okay, just keep me. Thanks, man. I'm trying. Just, well, we're ship of state kind of sometimes travels through choppy, foggy waters. All right, can I have a motion to, I'm dying to hear from Megan about the park thing, but let's do order 26-157. Order authorizing the allocation of $65,500 of overlay for fiscal 2027 to balance revenues and expenditures and sustain overall budget tax commitment. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. We have a presentation from staff, please.
Attachments, the best part of the presentation, it's a two-page summary. Short of it is that there was three things. One, a capital project for funding reconciliation in regards to the use of our 1,550,000 in tax revenues. But there was an additional 145 in that. So, and then hazmat had a $39,500 favorable variance, which led to a general fund TIF variance of 250 that left the town $65,500 from a balanced budget, meaning expenses and revenues equaled when they were posted by finance. Two things have come out of this for a recommendation. Recommendation one is we do not have to change tax commitment or the budget. The council, I'm just asking authorize the use of overlay of 65.5. That takes care of the financial variance, and the accounting entries can then be processed by our accountant and the staff. Step two is in our budget processes and the evolving and learning process will be fully, great spreadsheet the finance department has built. That spreadsheet will be utilized and run and finalized prior to the council posting a budget for final consideration. So instead of a process that was always done after the budget, we're going to start doing them before. It's a great catch. It's a great way to make sure everything balances. Great tool. It's just never been done in that order before. So that's the last part of the memo is we're recommending a change in our sequencing for next year's budget adoption process. Nothing the community will see, something staff will know is done and the council should confirm.
Okay, thank you. Any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public? Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate you bringing that forward. Next up is, can I do the park one now? Come on up. Order. I swear to God. This is. 149. I know, I get. Sorry, I gotta introduce it. Order 26-149. Can I have a motion? Be it order this is the park one.
So moved.
Second.
Order in second, presentation from staff.
Hi there, Megan Mazzella, Parks and Recreation Director. The application linked on this agenda is for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. It is a 50-50 match grant. The grant has been submitted towards Marden Park. Marden Park right now is the baseball field out on Park Street in between Park and Crosby. It does not drain well. A large issue with that property is that it is very wet for a very long time. There are standing water oftentimes in May, which make it really difficult for the public works crew to maintain. It also is deteriorating our dugouts and buildings we do have on that site because of the frost freeze effects. So there is constant annual maintenance on there on those buildings. So we are submitting this grant looking to revitalize the field and add some additional amenities. The additional amenity would be a walking path that would go around the entire park. The sidewalk does end on both of those areas. You can't quite make it down to the end. There's also no dedicated parking at that park. So you are able to park on the Park Street side and the road, but to have dedicated parking towards that park off the street, and to be by adding that walking path, it would allow park use in all seasons and by like all abilities in that way. This park is incredibly important to the Orono Little League. They have expressed concerns and have written letters brought to the town council in previous budget seasons before. That is how the part of the capital funding for this park had started, was concerns from the public. So this would be a massive support to that entity that runs baseball and softball for probably about 150 kids in this community.
Okay,
A
any
year. Yeah.
clarifying questions?
Just to
or
add
comments?
two things, you did set aside $50,000 into a reserve 3 years ago for Martin Park. That would be a portion of the match, and it is in your capital improvement program to do more improvements to it. So this is a way to get more done for that value. We would have a small amount of money to additionally raise after it's awarded, but since it's not until a construction season of next year, we'll find those funds in the next capital program.
Okay. Sean, clarifying questions?
Yes, the path, sidewalk, that's being created there, is that separate and distinct from like kind of the existing walking path that's between Park Street and Crosby, or is that an improvement on that, or?
So it would connect around the entire parcel. So I think what you're referring to is like that kind of through path that's kind of like wooden. The path would be extended to go around the entire baseball field, which would allow spectators of all different abilities to be able to actually get to the field. Because right now, if you're looking to watch a baseball game and you have a mobility challenge, you do have to either park in the street, walk across the grass. It's not incredibly accessible. So the path would wrap around the existing parcel, not end it that way. It would be a loop from where you're talking about from the Park and Crosby streets and would kind of horseshoe around the parcel there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That was clarifying questions. So it's 163, and then what's the town match? Would be
The total project is estimated to be about 340,000. And it is 50-50, so it would be split pretty much down the middle. Yeah. Sorry, Clint?
Some in kind.
With some in kind.
So it's not all
labor.
cash. We
It's
have
not all cash.
labor and, yeah.
sure. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Any comments from the public? Any more discussion from council?
I would just say I'm in favor. Has there been any talk about, I mean, I'm totally ignorant about any fundraising that has gone on in community in anticipation of this. I know as was raised, we 3 years ago set aside some funds in anticipation, but is there any talk of, some of that additional money being community raised?
Not yet. In 2018, there was a engineered plan for this type of improvements to this park. So this is building off of requests that have happened before my time here. Getting closer to an acceptance of the grant or not we'd be able to communicate that funding stream better versus funding for something that we don't quite know. We will need the grant to support the amount of work the park needs to be used more regularly, more consistently.
Yeah, that's great. I think I just would be interested to see sort of what the appetite is in community to help raise money in addition to what council's doing and then what we get from the grant. So thank you.
You think there's any room to do skateboard stuff there? Because we got a little money in a reserve account for that. Yep. Earning interest though. I mean, it's gotta be, what? Sorry.
You keep going.
So the history, you want to ask the history. There was a plan that was brought before the community that had some other things there. One included some stuff around a pump track and that and would fill in with the skateboard money, and that was moved, and they decided to put the pump track over by the high school, and so that because there was some community concern about having it there, so that didn't happen, and it's kind of been on the shelf with this plan until Megan has come along and found a funding source. So
okay,
yeah.
To Mitch's point as well, the parcel is larger than just a ball field. There could be future room for improvements and amenities and additions. This current grant does not include such things. This is specifically getting the ball field, the park that is already in active use, in a more functional place, as well as repairing or replacing those buildings that are needed to play baseball in that space. Additional improvements absolutely could be a conversation for a later time, but I just want to be clear that the grant is for specifically what exists, and the addition would be parking and that walking
All
trail.
right. I was
Yep.
just trying to help you get Rob's vote, but you know.
I just wanted to be clear.
All right. It felt like a softball to me, but anyway. All right. Any more questions, discussion? I think all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thanks, Megan. Looking forward to it. What's the timing, do you think?
We are scheduled to hear back from the grant approximately the end of July or early August. The town in the past has used land and water conservation funds for different parks. The pool, for instance, the playground, for instance, are identified as those specific properties. So a really neat thing about this grant is if for some reason we are not approved in this grant cycle, you often work with the state agencies to get you into the next grant cycle. So that they actively work with communities to make improvements and to move forward together. So
Okay.
that's positive. Yep.
Thanks. It'd be awesome if it comes together. Okay, I'll take a motion on order 26-150, an order approving the proposed council policies and procedures manual as recommended by the Nominations, Evaluations, and Council Policies Committee.
So seconded.
Like some interesting subplots from committee members, or
Dan,
so-
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Before we start, I just want to fully disclose that I am a counselor that is married to a town employee. I am going to choose not to recuse myself because I feel I have valuable insight into this discussion, but I invite my fellow counselors to discuss and vote about my participation.
Okay, I move that Andrea participate. Does anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of Andrea participating? Unanimous. Thank you. Glad we did it. Do we need an order number for that? Okay. All right. Councilor Marks.
Okay, here we go. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the folks who've been on the NECAP committee. A little bit of history of how we got here. Back in 2023, when I was first elected to council and Rob was here and Dan was here, and I don't know if anyone else was, there was discussion about the policy and procedures manual and what needed to get updated in it. Some of those discussions got started on the council at that time. And pretty quickly got shelved with all the management transitions that were going on. So that was the time when we had a manager leaving and an interim town manager and then our new town manager coming on. Then in 2023 into 2020, I guess it was 24, NECAP was charged with coming back to council with recommendations on how to sort of restructure the committee structure and council meetings, Jacob, for efficiency and to move things forward. And there was a NECAP report in 2024 that council voted on and unanimously accepted. And so then after that, in 2025, NECAP was asked to take that NECAP recommendations that council had approved and take the old policy and procedures manual from back in 2021 and figure out how to turn them into one document, a policy and procedures manual, so that we would not go crazy trying to look back and forth between multiple documents and everything could be found in one central location. Part of that task was to combine the two documents. The other part was to be sure that we were accurately reflecting state law, Orono charter, ordinances, not misrepresenting any laws, and accurately reflecting how we were currently doing things as a council, and then to make information as transparent, as accessible as possible, both to new councilors who might be coming on to council and trying to understand how council works, and to any member of the public who had a question about how do special committees work, or how does someone get something onto a council agenda, be you a member of the public or a member of council. So I think that accurately sums up what we were charged to do. It took us an entire year. It took us 12 meetings to get through all of that with several consults with the town attorney. Our staff liaison is town manager Deshane, so he was there for every step of that process to figure out how things were currently working. And this is what we have brought you. I wanted to start with a couple things. I wanted to make clear, I think the cover letter makes this clear, and I think the intro of the document itself makes this clear, but I think it's important to state that although it's called a policies and procedures manual, because there are some policies in here that council are bound to follow, the large majority of this manual is a procedures manual. So that's highlighted right up front, that any actual policies are right at the beginning of Appendix A and will be updated if council adds any new policies. Other than that, these are procedures. They're our best effort to reflect how we're doing things and what best practice is according to our town manager and our town attorney. I have a few questions that were highlighted in yellow comment boxes for council down the side, and it is going to be important that we look at those together as we go through. Those are questions that we felt were at a level that we didn't want to answer them ourselves at NECAP. We wanted them to come back to council, and or points where we're aware that what's written is either slightly different than how council is doing it now based on legal advice, or is a clarifying of something that our lawyer clarified for us that perhaps council wasn't fully understanding in the past. So those are the yellow comment boxes. There are not a lot. I was asked by Dan to highlight any other things in here that I thought were important for counselors to know. So I guess I will do that as we go through it. I was going to start next by pointing out that if we are talking about policies and procedures, I think it would be helpful to just zip to Appendix A for a moment, which can be found on page 41. If you're scrolling as a counselor. On page 41 in Appendix A, you've already been cited the links for the town charter, the town ordinances, how to use Muni code and find state law. And the next thing that you're linked to would be the policies, the actual policies that counselors are required to follow. This had a yellow comment box. So as we looked at the policies for council, 2 of them were called policies and 2 of them were not, but they seem to have gone through the same process of making a policy, right? We had a discussion, a specific discussion about them as a council. They are short, 1-page kind of information pages. We ended up, council voted and called one guidelines and one guidelines and procedures. In our opinion on NECAP, these went through the same process that a policy would have gone through, and it makes more sense to simply call them policies and cite them here. So that is my first question to council. Does council have an objection to that? And might we even just rename them policies so that it was clearer for the public? But at the very least, I'm under the impression where we required ourselves to follow these steps. Do y'all see them on the top of page 41? So remote participation is called a policy, public comment is called a policy, but proclamations and resolutions steps were not called a policy, and mini grant guidelines and procedures were not called a policy. NECAP's recommendation is to simply call those policies and treat them as policies because they were passed that way by council. But if people have a different opinion, now's your time.
Makes sense. Anybody disagree? Okay, good.
Okay. I want to highlight right below that, Amanda, I think this is next is a typo. You and I had spoken about the MMA Municipal Officers Manual needing to be cited somewhere, but it's not actually a policy. So I want to highlight for counselors that that would need to be moved out of letter D, and it should become its own letter in this appendix of useful documents to consult would be the MMA Municipal Officers Manual. It is a guideline and cites lots of useful laws, but it's not Orono policy. So folks okay with us moving that?
Move it.
Okay, lovely. One yellow comment box done. Okay, we can go back to the top at this point. So if you scroll yourself back to the top.
This is the 6/17/26 draft, right?
The one
first-
attached to tonight's agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I already mentioned this, but I think it's important. One thing we really tried to be clear at the beginning is how to help new counselors know how to find the charter, how to find the ordinances, how to find a state law. So there's really explicit instructions on how to use Muni code, which we hope are helpful. As we move on, we get into the FOA section. So that's Freedom of Access Act, which is very important.
What page?
You are now at, hold on, I'm just rolling. Thank you.
6, 7.
We
7, 8.
start on the bottom of 7. This has a yellow comment box also. So this is the open meeting law. As we spoke with our lawyer, Matt Tarasevich, it became clear that one thing that I think council didn't fully understand, or the current council, maybe past ones did, but the way the past manuals were written, it didn't make it clear that for open meeting laws to be tripped, there's 2 different things that can happen. The first is that A quorum of council is talking about town business together. So that would be 4 counselors in order to be at a quorum. That tips open meeting laws, and we shouldn't do it. That needs to happen in a public proceeding like this council meeting. The second way that gets tripped is about a council-appointed committee. Anytime council appoints a committee, if it consists of 3 or more people, anytime those folks are talking about public business, that needs to be in an open public meeting as well. So this, I think, is why there was this confusion going on a lot about, is it a quorum of council that tips this, or is it 3 people? So the answer is, it is a quorum of council, but it is also any council-appointed committee that is 3 or bigger. So I know that's more complicated to understand than the simple, it's 3 people, but I want to highlight for you that the law doesn't say it's 3 people. It says it's a council-appointed committee of 3 or more, or it is a quorum of council, which is 4. That tips those open meeting laws. There is no feedback we really need from you. We're just reflecting what the lawyer said, but it is something that I don't think we really fully understood until we got into this process. So we wanted it to be highlighted for all of you. And Clint is working on a few council-appointed committees that might not have been publicly noticing all of their meetings to make sure that that happens and gets posted on the website. There were a couple that might not have been doing it. Are we good?
Yep.
Okay, that's that. Then after that, if you go to like page 12, I think all that's important to note here is that the previous manual highlighted a few of the roles of council, but not really all of them. We made an effort here to be sure we really looked comprehensively about the roles of council. There are 7. We delineated what they are. There's no change, nothing's different happening there. It's just simply they are laid out in maybe more detail than they used to be in the previous manual. We hope it's helpful for us, but especially for new folks coming on, I would have loved to see that part. Amanda, there's a couple links that aren't currently working, at least for me, to open, but unless council objects, one of the things in this manual is that staff owns updating the links. Council does not. That's not our level to get into. That's a staff thing. So I can just sit with Amanda, and the couple that I found that didn't open today, we can be sure get fixed. But if anyone had one that didn't open, that they want to know what it said in that link, feel free to speak up. Okay. Then on page 15 and 16, again, this is no new process. So to Jacob's comment, we really tried not to add new processes just to reflect what we're doing. This does have the annual review of council performance, which didn't used to exist, but it does now. So we put it in here. If council ever decides not to do that, it can get taken out of the manual. Again, they are procedures, not policies. The onboarding of new counselors gave us some direction about how to onboard folks, especially in the event that the council chair and vice chair are leaving or up for reelection, which in fact is happening this fall, right? So
Only one of us is leaving by choice.
I understand,
Yeah.
but you're up for reelection. So
Yeah.
it gives us some protocols about how to handle that, which didn't used to exist. Amanda gets a title. Amanda is our, apparently by our ordinance is called a council clerk, but that's very confusing with the town clerk. So we adopted a council clerk / parliamentarian to be sure we know that's Amanda. It's not the town clerk. So I think that's good. Other than that, you get into his sections about how council meetings are run. Again, no changes. That came directly out of the NECAP report that council already approved. The same thing for standing committees and special committees. There were not changes to those sections. And at that point, did I miss a yellow box that anyone can see up till date? Is that correct? I think I'm good. Okay. So then we get to conflict of interest and bias section, which was written by our attorney, reviewed by council in executive session with our attorney. And then based on the questions council had in executive session, Clint took some things back to the attorney. So what we did here was highlight for you the only changes that happened since executive session, which is simply that we renumbered sections that used to be 1, 2, and 3. In a earlier draft, the attorney had no problem with us bullet pointing with numbers. It made it a little easier to follow, we thought. There is an italic sentence that was added under bullet point 3. I'm trying to see where that is. Clint, do you see it? It's on page 32, second paragraph. This is the standard of review that council's asked to ask of itself when deciding if an issue could be a conflict of interest or bias. I think what's probably most important in this section, perhaps that council wasn't doing prior to the NECAP process, we did it today, we demonstrated it, is the attorney got us clarity on the fact that if I potentially have a conflict of interest, it's on me to bring it up. If I don't bring it up and someone else on council knows that I have a potential conflict of interest or bias, it's on the rest of council to bring that up. And then it's on council to make the vote and decision, with the idea that it leads to greater public trust if I have a potential conflict of interest, that I'm not the one deciding whether it's real or not, that the council owns that decision. And we did it. The third change we added in the language we used tonight about how we make that motion. So that's everything that was changed there. I think we're good on that. I think the next yellow comment box is on page 34. Does that seem true? People who are following comment boxes?
I have it at the top of 35, but
Okay, sorry, it might have moved. Bottom of 35. Give me a second. Yeah, for me, it's the bottom of 34. And then is that not where it's showing for others?
35.
Huh. Okay. I don't know. But it's the one that says, we're talking about how many counselors could be present at a meeting if the town manager wanted them there at an official meeting for any reason. And this used to say no more than 2 counselors could attend such a meeting, but the lawyer pointed out to us again that that's not factually true, that by law, there could be 3 of us there. Only 4 of us would tip the quorum rule. So we wrote it according to the law. It's up to council. If we want to make our own policy to make it stricter than that, you could say you wanted to. I think in the end, NECAP's recommendation, the closest we came to one, was this sentence at the end about perhaps leaving it as is. No more than 3 counselors will attend such a meeting so as not to violate open meeting laws. Historically, council has avoided having more than 2 counselors in such a meeting. I think we said add whenever possible. So is that comfortable language to, I mean, we have historically tried to keep it to 2, in part, I think, because we didn't understand the law. We do now understand it. I think 2 is great practice when we can, but if there ever was a time when the town manager felt like he needed the chair of the finance committee and the chair of the council and the chair of the ordinance review committee to get in a room with staff and talk about something, there's nothing illegal about that. And I guess I'd want him to have the flexibility to do it. But I'm turning that over to all of you. This is a question to council.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that we have this discussion, if only because it's been such longstanding practice and understanding of council that we couldn't have more than 2 of us sort of meeting and talking about town business. As Sarah pointed out, legally, it's actually no more than 3. So we should keep the law in here. But I guess I was curious how we felt about what our best practice is going forward. If we want to keep it at 2, because that's probably public expectation for those who have been paying attention. I'm not sure how strongly people feel about this, but I thought it was worth raising because this is a change to how we've been historically operating and how the public has so far understood us to operate.
I don't feel any need to have a this is the way we always do it sentence in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels more useful to me and more of a long-lived document to just say, this is what the expectation is, and
Great.
leave it at that.
so is that at 2 or 3?
At 3.
3.
As the law states, and
Yeah.
that, having this is the way we used to meet
Yeah.
in a
Right.
document that is intended to educate
Oh,
people
yeah,
about the way
okay.
things should be done.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't see it
what
being particularly useful.
Yeah, it wasn't so much saying like, this is how we used to, but just whether or not we felt like that was still basically less for this and more for our common understanding of sort of what we were expecting of each other.
Right.
If we intended to just say, okay, it's actually okay now that we do 3 and we're saying that now publicly, which is different from what the expectation had been previously.
I think for simplicity's sake, we follow the law
Yeah,
instead of having a
totally.
policy is my thought.
I'm cool with that.
I like following the law, but I don't like feeling like there's a fait accompli when 3 of us get together and decide something, and then we bring it in. Oh, the 3 we decided to do that. It just feels like it's predetermined and outside of a public meeting, and it leaves only need to swing one more person. And Matt's always good for a vote when you really need it. So, thanks, buddy. So I get what the law is. I like the 2. I like to but I don't want to complicate things either. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to be our practice to get three of us together with a town manager all the time and disguise stuff and then come in and have it decided.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think a lot of decisions should be
Yeah.
made in that. I mean, even when we are discussing town business, like if I run into John at the coffee shop or something and Jacob happens to come in or something, I mean, I think it's okay for us to discuss town business at some level, but we shouldn't be doing a ton of in-depth deliberation, regardless, just for the sake of public trust.
I'm whatever we decide to do, whether, the law, I'm fine with, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get three of us together to kind of work stuff out.
I can't imagine that any of us would. I just need clarity on what y'all want this to say. So,
I think the language looks good.
right now, as is, so no more than 3 counselors will attend such a meeting so as not to violate open meeting laws. And then if y'all find that all of a sudden you have this temptation to do this thing we never have done, then maybe we can come back and update the manual to say we want to make it more restrictive than the law. But that's what the lawyer tells us the law says.
Perfect.
All right, so no addition, no extra comment, leave as is, correct?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Great. Then I did want to point out, I didn't highlight this in yellow, but I did want to highlight on page 35 now for me, which I guess is 36 on yours, under communications to council. So it's just one page further down. Oh, I guess there is a comment. Yeah, here it is. It just wasn't highlighted in yellow, but this gives us information about what to do with our mail. So we realized we had no real clarity about what we were supposed to do. So NECAP asked the town manager, who talked to the town lawyer, and they came back to us saying that if we get mail at home, if we get it here addressed to us in the town offices, personally, it says to Sarah Marks, town offices. I'll be told it's there. I come in, I open it up myself. If it is related to town business, I turn it over to staff to archive. The point here is to keep things in good order for a FOA request, right? Our email is already archived and already tracked for FOA, but printed mail is not necessarily. If mail arrives to your home address, the next one, item C, the same way. If it's related to town business, you should bring it into the town office and leave it here. If it's not the MMA basic, do you all get the magazine? Like, you don't need to bring that, but something more specific, bring it in. With the exception on D, if there's a communication that someone believed to be particularly sensitive, like allegations of impropriety on the part of yourself, another counselor, the town manager, another staff member, you can consult with the town manager, the council chair, and or the town attorney instead of immediately turning it over. If something is of a highly sensitive nature, you have the right to consult. Okay? All good? That's again, just a clarity one, but it's maybe different than what we might have known. I think at that point, we are up to page 38. This is the section on where counselors can find needed information. This is a delineation which Amanda will keep updated about how the council drive works. These are the folders that are of particular interest to council. So I was hoping, especially for new counselors, this would help to know where to find things when you first come on. The very last bullet point about policies, manuals, and guidelines actually is probably redundant at this point because all of those are now on the website. Cody's done an amazing job. Staff have done a job. Everything's up there. So I think I'll probably add a line, just adding if it's okay with council to say they're here, but they're also on the website at the website link. There are sometimes ones in the folder that are in process that are like a draft version that have not yet been approved. But once they get approved, they're now on the website. All right. Then I don't believe there was another yellow comment. We answered the one in Appendix A already. I did want to point out Appendix C, which we all voted on a few months ago, this calendar, the town council year calendar, month by month. It's kind of an overview of how the council year should work. This might be what Jacob was referring to about too much detail, maybe. But I do want to point out that we didn't actually add procedures. We just tried to put them in where they have been happening and where staff have said it would be most useful to them if they did happen. So the goal here is that if each committee chair for the standing committees of council were to be in the practice of consulting what's on your committee's agenda for that month, I highlighted each committee in a different color. So Jacob, you're in charge of finance. It's green for money. Everybody else has got random colors. DIB committee, ordinance review committee, and NECAP got a color. I never heard from community development that you had something that happened on a regular schedule. So if there is one, then, update whoever's chairing the NECAP committee in the future when it's not me. And NECAP will sort of track changes that need to happen here. The plan is that NECAP will review this whole manual, including the calendar, once a year with minimal changes, just to correct what council's identified is wrong or isn't working or has made a change in. So it should not be like this process for months and months. It should be a couple of months of us taking a quick look and putting in changes that staff have requested or another committee chair or council has requested. So I think that pretty much explains what's in Appendix C. The only, I'd say, new processes that got added at all, I highlighted one tonight, which was 2 comp plan updates a year verbally, because the public had been asking us for that. So Clint gave months he thought were good. If council doesn't want those updates, now's your time to speak up. Again, it's just a procedures manual. The only other thing is sort of pushing council to take a look at our own goals every spring in June and July. I think they get buried sometimes during the budget season, except the ones that have to do with the budget. So the committee felt like it was important for us to get ourselves to look at them again come June or July to check in about how we were doing. I believe that is everything that needed attention. You guys might have questions. I did want to highlight Appendix E, which has some nice guidelines for how to behave at meetings to make meetings collegial and go well. And shout out to Cody and Clint, who really developed that. It's called Council Guidelines for Meetings. It's got a nice graphic. And 10 bullet points of things we all, I think, are doing, but it's nice to remind ourselves to check in and see if we're doing those things to keep things moving right along. And I guess in Appendix K, there's also a call out that to actually have one executive session a year where we look at how we're feeling about our town attorney and town auditors, since it's a core council responsibility to hire those people. That shows in Appendix K and also in the calendar. I think I'm done.
Okay.
What questions do y'all have?
Well, the clarifying questions? I've got a couple just observations. Any public comment, Cody? So, I have in terms of just observations, what do you think is like the workshop piece? Talked about, there's nothing in the charter, nothing in the ordinance about how we call a workshop. Sometimes we stack a workshop on top of a meeting to make, just for simplicity's sake. So like on those kinds of things, like when if we make a decision that, we wouldn't want to have to do a electronic survey of the counselors to say, hey, is it okay if we schedule a workshop on top of a regularly scheduled meeting? I get that we have to unless it's a special meeting, I get that we have to get council approval to schedule a meeting. So when those kinds of issues come up, what's your sentiment there? And what's your guidance or suggestion in terms of how we keep this evergreen on, we're working through, it feels like a little like the trap we get into with our ordinances is that if we don't make a really concerted effort like we're doing now to update them regularly, and we don't put staff resources, don't couple, council involvement with staff resources like we're doing with Shelley, it's going to fall. They'll get stale as things change. So I guess that's kind of I really appreciated the cover letter because I thought that really captured what I think this document is and provided assurances that it's not more than it is, but it's a very handy tool, but it's extensive. So what's your thought on that?
I think I'll go with the second question first. The
Okay.
first question was about workshops and the second
Yeah.
one was about making sure it stayed fresh. I really think the answer to the second one that we talked about in NECAP is that if it's looked at once a year by an actual committee, I don't think it will get out of date. At this point, I understand people on committees change over, but it's unlikely that all 3 of us change over simultaneously, who are pretty steeped at this point in it. As long as committee chairs for other committees let us know if something on their committee is significantly changed, and that's built in, that once a year, Amanda sends out a reminder to committees, hey, look at your charge, make sure it's really what you're doing, make sure your things that are sent to you, if they're done, that you tell us so we can get them off the list. I think if that happens, if that reminder goes out in August and each committee gives us feedback, and we look at it once a year, I really do think it will stay up to date. I think the problem is when it doesn't get looked at by a committee for years on end, it gets drastically out of date and it takes a lot of work
Yeah.
to get it back in shape. So from my mind, it's kind of like house cleaning. Like if I let it go way too long, it's brutal. And if I do it regularly, it's okay. So that's that. I don't know if someone else on NECAP has a different answer to that, but that's my particular feeling that it should be easy if we do it regularly. It will get hard if we drop it.
Okay.
I think that on the workshops, that's on page 29, the section on council workshops.
Yeah.
And so again. the
That's just
workshop-
one example. I don't
Yeah.
mean to like
Oh,
dive into the weeds, but
I thought you meant the workshop. You had a specific workshop question.
well, I do. It's just
Okay.
sort of like, how does it?
Yeah.
Like, how did you arrive at that approach to like, and how does it differ from?
Yeah.
It feels like it differs from what our practice has been in terms of, all right, we're going to throw a workshop because we want to spend a half an hour talking about the Orono International Airport on top of a regularly scheduled meeting.
So I think that you're right. By the way, we didn't change this language. The workshop part was something we didn't touch. It came from the NECAP report directly lifted from what council approved back in 2024 regarding workshops.
Okay.
So the guideline here was that a workshop would be appropriate for something that might need an in-depth discussion longer than 20 to 30 minutes. And I think it talked about calling one because at the time, I think folks were assuming that it was going to be a separate meeting. In practice, you're right. Looking at this, what we've actually done is said, oh, we could have a workshop for 30 minutes and then have a regular council meeting at the
Right.
same time. So that is a good question for council tonight. Is there a way we want to change that to make it clear that a workshop can be added on to a regular meeting? Or else it can be called and scheduled by a vote of council or an electronic vote if it's going to be separate from a regular meeting? I don't care. We didn't look at it. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that's direct language from before.
Okay. No, I'm fine with it as long as people understand we may throw a workshop onto a calendar item. And that could be something we refresh. If we feel like we have a need to refresh it, we can. I just wanted to that was just something that stood out to me as something, but
Yeah, and I think I feel, Dan, like maybe I could say that it seems like on council leadership team, we've been trying to steer away from that and to actually just call them discussion items unless they really are going to be like much longer. Like for a while, I think we were calling them workshops when maybe we really didn't need to. Like, I think the examples here are like council goal setting, lengthy explorations on a big project like Route 2. Those are the kind of things that might be a standalone workshop, which would be the thing that would need to be called and voted on by council. So this could be the first thing flagged for the next vision of the manual to take a look at the workshop language and whether it's matching what we're doing and whether it
Yep.
needs to be fixed.
and it'll
Sound good?
get posted and the town manager's office will own the document, right? In
Yep.
terms of, is that how that's the vision for this? Okay. All right, that's all I have. Anybody else? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the thought giving to onboarding.
Yeah.
And can
It would have helped, right?
imagine how helpful
Yeah.
this would have been and still will be as kind of muddled through these this first year.
So that cup of coffee and that walk around Orono wasn't enough for you? You want a little more detailed and,
Yeah.
all right.
Dan, are you positive you don't want this workshop language to just be changed to say a workshop can be added to the beginning or end of a council meeting or can be called and scheduled
I
at a
don't-
separate time?
Yeah, I
We
don't,
could change it right now.
yeah, I don't want to
think
amend
that's
the,
what
I don't want to amend, if you can make that a friendly amendment without us having to amend the motion in front of us, that's fine with me. I'd love that. So, Andrea?
In reading, there was page 15, item 6, and then the reference to page 41. What do we need to take steps, or should we look at steps in transparency between ourselves so that if there's an individual request for information that's shared with council? Also, along with that, if that request for information adds to the workload for daily staff.
Can you tell me which section you're in, since I'm probably still looking at my pagination numbers and not
Let's
what's the title
see.
of the section?
Page,
I have it on 13 and 14. It's number 6, providing decision-making guidance, strategic direction.
Is that the one you're talking
Yeah.
about? I'm not sure what section you're
let
in.
me go up here. Sorry. the bottom of my page 15 is item 6, provide decision-making guidance and strategic direction.
Yep.
And then down on 41, there was a section about requesting information from staff and adding to the workload. I'm just wondering, I don't know that we have right now anything that allows us each to hold each other accountable for when we request information.
Can you give me the title again for which one about requesting information from staff?
Under the town council non-interference,
Uh-huh.
protecting staff from undue influence,
Right.
pressure from individual council members.
Yeah.
Workload, work schedule, et cetera. They
Right.
must bring it to the attention of council first.
And I think it says right above in that section, right, that everything goes through the town manager. Like, we don't individually ask anything of staff. It either goes through the town manager or through council or both, correct? I think, to me, that was the crucial part, that that's not something that we're able to do as
Mhm.
counselors, to say to staff, I want this, I want that, with a few exceptions, right? When it's your own personal business. My road's getting paved and I have a question about how it's going to affect my driveway, right? Or something like that. Was there something on number 6 that you thought made it sound like you could directly ask a staff member?
I'm not necessarily directly asking a staff member, but so much as the practice that we've had in the last year of asking for data and requesting additional data, and if that is done by email or in open council.
So I think that to date, our practice has been, if it's a data request it should come from council, right? If it's from the whole council in a council meeting. But I don't think there's ever been, Clint can speak to this. It seems to me that counselors, since I've been on, have frequently emailed the town manager and said, I'm trying to understand this item on the agenda, and the thing I need is this. And then it's been up to you, it seems like, where that information goes, when you feel like it needs to go out to the full council. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, it is case by case.
Yeah.
And there have been a couple occasions since I've been here that I felt that I needed to involve a chair and say, this is a little bit above and beyond. And on some occasions said, no, that's all council. We did kind of say that at a council meeting. This is where I saw the site. Dan shared it. Said, you know what, I guess I'll interpret it the same, and went and got the information for all of you. There's also been cases where, no, we didn't do that. We need to bring this back. That may be an agenda item in the future, but there's no authorization for it. So I try to be the best filter I can. If it's becomes a bigger issue, I will notify the chair and see if an executive session is necessary to talk about the numbers and size of requests. But that's the best I can give you. Hard to write in a manual. I think this comes pretty close.
Yep.
Did that answer your question, Andrea?
Yep. Any other?
I'll
Yep,
I'll
Rob.
just say very quickly, I know this is very late in the meeting, and yet I really do appreciate the mountain of work that Sarah in particular did on this, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to have this discussion. Like I said, I know it's late in the meeting, and I'm sure we're all starting to feel a little bit of that fatigue, but I'm glad that we had the discussion, and now once we approve this, we'll have this manual that we'll be able to give to new counselors. I think it'll be a good resource for everybody. So it was worth doing. And I appreciate everybody's time and patience on this. And thank you, Sarah.
Only one meeting in July, so that's good, right? So,
And if
it's a
you-
long- it's a doozy, but we're only meeting once. Yeah. All right. Anything else for anybody? All right, we ready for a motion? All those in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much. Nice job. All right. Next up still on the action items. Did you read number for me? Good. All right. Order 26-151, order confirming the employment contract of Megan Hess as the Public Works Director for the town of Orono, effective July 6, 2026 to June 30th, 2029.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded. We need a discussion on this, Clint. We're all set?
Well, again, it's a new appointment. She is a current employee, but she is getting promoted to the director's level. So first-time directors always come in and say hello. And as soon as you do this, I'm also gonna, do you want her to come up, or are you good?
No, we love you, and you've been doing a great job for Orono. Thank you. We've got the two strongest Megans in Maine. There's no question about it. And thank you, but I think we're given the timing. So,
Before you vote, I am going to sidebar one thing.
sure.
Because she's been here for a long time tonight. It was on the agenda earlier. But Kim's a new employee as well. Kim Zagsma, give us a wave. She's our code
Hey,
officer.
Kim.
And as of tonight, our local plumbing inspector. So
Awesome.
might as well introduce two new people at the same time. It seems most appropriate to celebrate together.
Welcome to Orono. Could have used another Meg, but we'll, whatever it takes.
Name change.
Thank you very much. All right, so all those in favor of order 26-151? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, I'll take a motion on order 26-152, approving a land. Moved. Town-owned property on Godfrey Drive. Any more conversation about this, Clint? Yep, in the menu. All right, all those in favor? There's nobody here from the public, so it's unanimous. Thank you. Cody, stop me if anybody, okay? Order 26-153, order approving the transfer of forfeited property to the Orono Police Department pursuant to 15 MRSA, section 58243 and section 5826, subsection 6. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything other than the menu, Clint?
We're just following the policy. It's been years since we've done it, but this is a town-approved policy of the council where we sell things that we've taken in. It includes guns and others. We do not sell it unless it's to a licensed person. Just wanted to give you a heads up. That's why I made it an action item. If that's a concern of this council, I am following existing policy.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All those in favor of order 26-153? It's unanimous. Thank you. Order 26-154, order authorizing the transfer of all unanticipated revenue funds received through Gov Deals, a total of $35,116 as capital reserve equipment account for public works equipment purchase.
So moved.
Seconded. So we made $35,000 by selling stuff we don't use anymore.
Yep, and we'd like to see it go into capital equipment reserve rather than just going to fund balance.
Excellent. Though we need to get our fund balance up, but that's another topic for another time. Any more questions? Any public comment, discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. And order 26-158, is that right? Thank you. Order approving the final language for the town manager and town council 363-degree performance surveys from Lori Bouchard of L Bouchard and Associates.
So
Can I get a
I'll just
motion?
So moved.
Second.
There we go.
Just Legion, I gave you a handout. Rob, on behalf of the Nominations Evaluation Council Procedures Committee, has been doing a great job. And again, it came back with some ones that are on the agenda. Committee looked back. They asked me to also follow up with Lori and see if we could shorten these. If you're interested in what you shortened it to, she's supportive with no matter what your direction is. She saw them, she liked it, and if there's anything more specific you want to change. So the only lead in I would give is these are the handouts or the drafts of how it could be shortened. If you're supportive, I think you just need to vote and authorize us to move forward.
Do you want me to say something about where they were shortened quickly? They are highlighted in yellow, anything that was added. What was basically shortened was that we realized after last year that those lengthy description of our 4 goals is like a lot for people to read, let alone comment on. And especially in the town manager survey where his role is just to support us in achieving those goals. We took them out of the front of the survey and just added this one leadership style question, which says he is supporting the town council in achieving its goals. We did add a positive question to the open-ended questions about what you felt like Clint is doing particularly well instead of just what he might improve. Seemed good to us, so we did add that. On the council survey, I have a quick question. There are 2 different options. The beginning are the overall assessment questions that Lori drafted, which I thought were fabulous. These are basically the 5 things as a council we should be doing all the time. And then on the council goals, I simply pulled out 3 of the 6 and said, these 3 seem to me like the thing members of the public might know the most about, or we might most want their feedback on. It might not be the 3 that you all think. I pulled out Orono stops because it seemed to me like the public probably has noticed what's going on with Orono stops. I pulled out the Your Voice Matters because that is specifically about trying to empower community-led initiatives and ideas. And I thought people might have a opinion on whether we're doing that. And then I pulled the one that said enhance and expand community events because we've put a big focus on Orono Festival Day in particular. And I thought people probably might notice that. So I simply pulled 3 out of 6. I didn't do the financial one because that's already in one of the overall categories. Some of them are already covered by the earlier assessment questions. Jacob came up with an even shorter version, which would be don't highlight any of our goals and just say, here's a link to all our goals. and then an open-ended question that said, please use this opportunity to just tell us how you think council's doing on all of them. But that's a lot to read through for anyone to have any opinion, whereas this at least gives a one-sentence summary of Orono Stops, Your Voice Matters, and expanding community events that people might have an opinion on. So that's it. Got an opinion, anybody?
I think on the last one, I'll just say, yeah, I think, while I appreciate the attempt at the succinctness from Jacob, I think anytime you ask people to click away or do other things, you immediately will lose a few people. I think having the separate questions, I think, is fine, and you know, people can still answer what they want. Other than that, I'm cool with all of these shortened questions. Thank you for the additional work on this, and thank you to Lori Bouchard for all of her work.
Yep. Any further discussion? Do we need, did that rise to the level of an amendment, or are you just going to work this out amongst yourselves? And
I would love NECAP not to need to meet in August. So I think if you're okay with Rob finishing this off with Lori, or me if Rob's unavailable with a show, like one of us could finish it off with Lori if you like the general direction. I will say again, the goals I did not put were financial infrastructure because that was already covered. Efficiency, transparency was already covered. Economic development and housing didn't get a call out. If we feel like people will have noticed a lot of housing things, we could ask the public, but I'm guessing all those initiatives are halfway there and probably not very noticeable yet.
so a little biases the survey a little bit when
would
you
you
point
like-
them to the stuff we're doing really well. Yeah.
Would you like them all?
Nope. I think you just finish it up and we can vote on this right now. So can we leave it to you guys, the committee to, okay.
Okay.
All right. Order 26-158. All those in favor? I'm seeing everybody. That's unanimous. Great. Now we're going to do council committee reports. Thank you for, a lot of action happened in the Orono Town Council meeting tonight. So thank you. First, Community Development Committee update from Matt, and then we're going to call on Mitch.
Yeah, we are canceling our meeting on Wednesday, so don't come to the community development meeting. There is a conflict in schedules there.
Okay.
And Mitch is going to update us on work that's happening in the community surrounding public safety.
Mitch Stone, Assistant Town Manager. Dan wanted me to give a 25-minute PowerPoint presentation, so buckle in. No, I will go quick. So the first thing I want to say is that for those of you who haven't watched the meetings of the Community Development Committee, the work here is challenging because it's a lot of different things, a lot of different wants, and a lot of different organizations that weigh in when you talk about roadway and changing things and plans and costs and all those things. And I think from where we started to where we are today has been a great kind of teamwork of staff and the committee to try to massage this in a way that it works. So just an update. One of the main places, and I know the council wanted to talk about this, was the kind of Oak Street, Main Street kind of intersection in front of Marsh Island. You have in front of you just a quick drawing of what is going to happen. There's a crosswalk that's being deleted. If you look at your picture, there are two orange things. Those two orange things are being deleted. They were crosswalks. Some is there, some is not. And then the crosswalk is going to be moved down towards the bridge. You'll see that in black. You'll also see in black some kind of more definitive lines of that corner of Oak Street and Main Street. For right now, that might be paint or maybe some bollards like you see at the demonstration project. They are repaving that. So when the painting stuff gets done, will probably be after that. And they also may be able to be a little bit more definitive when they pave it to do some things there. These are in line with the CDS project, that planning project that was there that they're looking at, and that from the bridge to Goodrich Drive. So these are kind of all been vetted, but these will be done this summer, starting soon. Along with this, they're repainting the lines. They're actually narrowing the lanes to 11 feet. That's a DOT kind of a new thing that they are doing, is moving all their lane widths to 11 feet. We have kind of some differences within that, some flexibility in different places, but this will all be across the bridge, will be 11 feet, which will narrow the lanes and a little bit, leave a little bit on the outside in this area. once again, all of these things were part of the Route 2 corridor plan and are going to be incorporated into the CDS funded plan that's for the downtown. They also will all be within the budget. There's no extra charge to do any of this stuff. The other thing that I know got mentioned was the demonstration project. Just so people are aware, realistically, what that is it's working with BACS to try something to see how it works. They evaluate it before, they evaluate it after, they get feedback. I don't think anybody that's driven through there can't tell me that it doesn't slow you down, because it does. But it also, if you look at it, it's markers on the line. It hasn't really changed the width of anything. It hasn't really done anything. It's just put something there so people understand that it's narrower. And I think those are some of the things that we look at in the bigger plan on how you can actually slow people down with infrastructure. And it doesn't take a lot. It just takes that visual thing that helps people go, oh, wait a minute. So slow that down. The last thing that we have talked about in this is out on Taylor Road, Forest Ave. We went round and round on that, and that's you know, to fix what we might call a dangerous intersection or a challenging intersection is a big undertaking. We had a lot of good feedback from BACS and DOT. And right now, the plan is looking at just taking the signage that's there, making it more visible. One of the things that we kind of concluded is that there have not been a lot of accidents at that intersection. And part of the reason is because people are highly vigilant because they know it's dangerous. The fear is when you start to try to do something that makes them feel more comfortable, they become less vigilant. And sometimes that causes more challenges. So we looked at other ways that we could look at that, and we're going to bolster the signage. And Dan is trying to get me to figure out a creative sign as you pull out to kind of tell people maybe how they can look at things. So, but anyways, that's as brief as I could be. So I don't know if you had any questions.
I talked to a resident at Marsh Island who lives on the Taylor Road who said, yeah, everyone's always told her to count to 10 as well. And to you, I compliment you for bringing us back from, we wanted something ambitious and grand and hey, we're solving problems, but ultimately there wasn't really a viable change there that we could come up with other than what you've suggested. So thank you for that. Anybody have any comments, questions? Thank you. Thanks, Mitch. Finance and operations, anything?
No meeting this month, starting again in August.
Okay, kneecap.
We talked way too much tonight. Nothing.
Ordinance review committee.
Nothing as of now.
Okay. Heart of Orono main committee.
Yeah, we're continuing to meet every couple of weeks here, and have gotten to the point where I think we've really zeroed in on some key issues to focus on, bringing folks into the downtown. And there are two recommendations out of the committee that our members have asked us to bring to maybe what the next step would look like. One of which was looking into a community calendar resource similar to what some other downtowns have utilized. And we discussed a couple of options around that and discussed how folks can fill those calendars and be engaged with it in order to kind of cross promote when someone's interested in one thing in the downtown, or they find themselves in kind of one silo of information or community within Orono, that they are exposed to and aware of all the other things that are going on. And then the second piece that we had been discussing and exploring was the potential to have some programmable or schedulable digital signage around town that might highlight some of these events going on. And again, reach as many people as possible. One of the ongoing things that has come up as we've talked to folks around town has been communication existing in silos and wanting to know about one thing, or knowing about one thing, but only getting it from a very specific source of information, like the mail list or the Facebook group or the town sign, but not being exposed to the others. And what I'm proposing here, or I guess asking if there's appetite on the council, is for the town staff to look at some of those options that have come out of committee, and come back to us with some information on what like a future implementation of this. Certainly not, this isn't a next week or next month project, but to come back with us with some options around how we might implement some of those recommendations. And I think that's like a, nods down the table, not necessarily a
Yeah.
proposal.
I mean, I'd love to see staff help you bring back that's what we've had some success with in some of the other committee, like the Good Neighbor Committee. You gotta lean into staff and ask them to bring you stuff that ultimately you could package as a proposal to council based on the recommendation, and you need to have good information, like the downtown, Old Town website that, you share. It looks phenomenal, and I'd love to know what, get a sense, get you the information so you can make a informed recommendation back to the council about the resources you need. You're meeting, and you got to be resourced to get your work, accomplish what you're trying to do. Does that make sense to people?
I think it'd be great to
Yeah.
hear some of the ideas with some.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. But when you think end of August or September, or well, I guess you got to talk with staff, right? But
Yeah, it'll probably, I wouldn't hazard an estimate for how long it would take to collect the information I'm asking
Okay.
for. So maybe can be part of the conversation
all right,
and let folks know.
I'd get him to meet every Monday until the work's done, but that's just, but yeah, you're more of a gentleman than I am, so yeah. So as unanimously agreed to by the, all right. Thanks, John. We got DEIB committee.
We are taking the month off and we'll get back together in August.
Liaisons, boards and committees. Anybody have anything from the various and sundry groups that we work with? Council chair update. I just have a couple quick items. Thank you all for the pledges to the pool, to the library. I wanted to do like a gimmicky pool event, and I appreciate both Lori and Megan indulging the idea, but then it was like kind of rainy and dreary and the summer's getting away from me. I'd still like to do it if we can pull it off, like I make a splash for the Orono Public Library, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that it hasn't happened yet, and it may not happen, but if anyone wants to back out of their pledge because of that, I hope that's not the case, but it may be harder to pull off than I originally thought. I'd like to, the Good Neighbor Committee I feel like we've finished our work. I do want to create the, well, we haven't finished the work. We finished the work of the committee, and I'd like to make sure that we continue to update the community every fall and every spring on kind of what we're doing to educate and engage people in our neighborhoods about what it means to be a good neighbor. But I don't intend, to call the committee together. I'm not suggesting we call the committee together again. So maybe an email out to the committee members, thanking them for their service and letting them know we're kind of wrapped up. Are people okay with that? Do we need a vote? It was supposed to end in July. So I feel like consent here is fine. All right. And then other thing is, this is the last time we meet before papers are available, I think on August 29th for elections, both school in Orono, both school board and town council. So we're gonna have, it sounds like, at least one open seat. Well, they're all open seats, right? I mean, nobody seats, but Sarah's told us that she's not running again. I have I'll try to limit myself in terms of talking about the fact that I am running again, but it's hard for me. But anyway, for people who are interested in being, it's now 7:45 on a Monday in July. For people who are interested in hanging out with us, love to have you run. It's important that the people of Orono have a choice, and the nomination papers are available at the end of July. That's what I have. Anything, let's go to the town manager for his report.
Okay, so just a few items. It's been a month. We are closing the office for a staff barbecue on August 18th from 11 to 1. Senior staff will be sponsoring that staff barbecue to them and support with the wellness committee. One of the things I am changing to adapt to the way the council's goal setting is that will be a senior staff goal setting morning that day, but we'll be open. Orono Festival Day, just a couple of updates. We could do more. If council has requests, please just email me or Megan, but We are working on that finalized, formalized calendar that will be coming out, so that will be soon. And a fun discussion was had recently at one of my Parks and Recreation meetings of the difference between parades and processions. I was told that a parade was being planned for Orono Festival Day, at which point my mind went to parades. And I said, that sounds more like a procession. So it's, unorganized kind of group of gathering. It will be planned and with a time, but they are working in a procession that's kind of an evolution from the trolley rides of last year to a more formal, taking people from the downtown over to the university for the game. So they're working on a
Beautiful.
procession component. So a little making fun of myself there. Hope I understand. But when I heard parade, I'm like, a parade? And, I'm thinking clowns and cars and fire trucks. And we might have the fire trucks, but not a parade.
I'll see you there.
Yes.
Yep.
That flows.
The poster is awesome. by the
Hey, if
way.
Dan and I are there, then there's clowns. What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Duly noted. That flows right into C, which is the Chief Joseph Orono Wabanaki Veterans Award. I am hopeful, but not officially, that we could do a presentation of that formally on Orono Festival. However, we do have a lot of pieces to pull together. Cody's working on that. Francis is good and in his behalf to help us write some language. I also want to thank Counselor Marks, who helped share on just kind of some of this with some input on it as well. It does tie into the interpretive plan, but we will see if that works out. I'm taking the suggestion, Indigenous Peoples Day is just too busy of a day to try to do something there. If this doesn't work out, we'll figure something else out, but that's the current hopes. The county budget update. I attended a meeting of managers and a few other officials from around the county. We met with Blair Tinkham, the new administrator, as well as Dave Marshall, who's taken over the chairperson's role. County government's been part of my career. I would consider this one of the most productive meetings I've ever had at a county meeting. That doesn't mean they're not usually productive. This was very focused, very open-minded, very hearing on the transparency and the needs. So keep you posted as things move along. They do have ongoing financial concerns, but they are engaging with us quite well. Ming Trails Grant was posted this year that we could have applied for, and we opted to skip this cycle with all the other grants that we were pursuing, but we are looking at a bigger grant application for next year, and staff is working on that. That's once a year, but we will keep you posted on that one as well. The Work Fit update. Just so you know, I am continuing to honor that Work Fit program. That's the way we kind of set it. It's been a while since we circled back to it. This is something I feel is a council policy that should be adopted. And it really was presented to the council with no formal adoption, but it has been ongoing for years. So we are continuing to honor it. If there's ever questions about it, we can talk to you. In short, it's a program where staff does certain wellness events. Certain staff, not all staff, can do certain wellness activities and earn up to an additional week of paid vacation. But we'll circle back more. The goal is to get to a formal presentation to you eventually. The local treasures is up and running again like last year around town, and more updates if you have questions about that, but go to our website, go around to your local businesses, you'll see the advertisings, but we're doing the local treasures for the summer again. Route 2 update. It seems silly to do this in a manager's report, but I am having ongoing meetings and it does make minor movements from time to time. The current goal is to meet with them and talk a little bit about what their timeline is again, and really focus in on the pedestrian mobility for the project that will be occurring here in the downtown area. We've made some more adjustments. We want to confirm the layouts. We do have the opportunities with owning both sides of the street now right here. We're just going to have one more meeting with them. If there's a need for formal, in my mind, I think there will be a public, and I'm going to use a term when you recruited, but an open community session for public input to have a conversation with them on where we're going and what it is. And that's probably about the same time we would probably either at or near that date do one on the sewer project, because we'll have bids in and we'll know where that timeline's coming in at. But stay tuned. The owners
Is that the 3.2 million piece you're talking about?
I'm not putting the number to it. There's a CDS grant of roughly 3 million, but it sounds like this has grown and the state's putting in more money to make it a more complete project. So I don't know the exact budget at this point.
All right.
Okay. Owner's representative of the library project. James was here, but I've had a conversation with him, and we have opted, since the foundation has done so much fundraising, and that our owner's representative, people used to call them like a clerk of the works. But it's a third-party reviewer, does some on-site view, but with Lori going to be on site, there's people that can do the photographs daily of things that are happening or big milestones. But we have agreed, and we're going to solicit a proposal from a company that came and highly recommended, with alumni here from the university that own the company. And we want to see what that is. That is not coming in under the town's auspices for the bid policy. It is part of the overall total 8 points. It's not a cost plus, but the foundation's just thinking that's something they're going to provide as part of that project budget to us. I'll let you know if they do go forward and how they go forward. It's listed at 88,000 in the operating budget for the construction, and we think we can come in quite a bit lower if we go this route. And we don't need all the things that were originally entertained. Last two little things, the library video got posted today. Cody did a video on the library staff promoting and what we do at the library and why it's such a great resource. Take a minute to watch it. Take 15 minutes to watch it. It's a great video. So take your time to take a look at it. What's that? Oh, take 13 minutes to watch it. So I just wanted to plug that. And then for me, just something for tonight, you pulled 2 agenda items here. I think that's a perfect example of your voice matters, and I appreciate the council doing that. I like the fluidity of meetings, and at the 2-year anniversary, as I shared, I just want to say that to me is what your voice matter means, and you did a wonderful job doing that. Those are why they're there, and thank you for doing it. I'm done.
Great, thank you for that. And just, I forgot to mention at mine, we're meeting again with the town leadership in BZ on Wednesday to talk about opportunities for collaboration. When there's some there, we will, we'll report back, but really good conversation, and they're a great partner already in a lot of ways. So looking forward to more talks there. We do not have any public petitions, future agenda items. Consider committee assignment for municipal sex offender ordinances. This came into us for the ordinance review. Was it ordinance review or was it community development? It was ordinance review. It's community development, right? Yeah. So it's late and long, but we had Orono does not have a municipal sex offender ordinance above and beyond what the state has. And Chief Merrill brought that to the Community Development Committee. You can shake your head no if any of this is wrong. So far, so good. And just wanted to, there's maybe one residence that has multiple, we decided 12 or 15 people in Orono that are registered. So if you go to the registry and again, some communities go further. I don't know that there's a call. I have not heard of any like community groundswell of challenges that we need to address. And it didn't feel like the police department had a strong push other than just to make sure that we were aware as the policy setting body that, there are communities with stronger, or, they're just a little more, instead of this many feet, it's this many feet plus whatever Buxton, decided was appropriate for them. So I don't know that we have something that we need to do if people feel like there's a need, but I appreciated Chief Merrill bringing it to us, and I love that we can have conversations like this that may or may not go anywhere depending on where we are. So we got a lot going on, but
I'm not aware of any call or any need for further action on this.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, Andrea?
And it's the same as far as not aware of any action or call, but I think we have a responsibility to look into this rather than waiting until something happens. Set the parameters now so that it avoids that from happening.
Yeah, there's a state law, which is pretty, maybe what we do is if you're interested in it, why don't you take a look at it? If anybody wants to see something assigned to a committee, let us know and we'll put it on the agenda and we'll have a conversation and a vote on it. But, I think that's a good point. But if you take a look at what's in place now, what the state law is, and you feel like there's something more that we need to address, you'll bring it forward. I'm not ready to do it, but if any one of us wants to do it, then welcome, or a member of the public.
Dan, can I just ask, is there a link to that state law that might be uploaded, not just for council, but also to this agenda, so that if anybody in the public cares, they can see what it currently is?
Yeah.
I assume that's not a huge ask for staff to just put a link up to the law.
No, I mean,
I'm curious, but does it take a lot of time or do you, I'm sure the chief knows right what it
there's
is,
a
right?
lot of laws, a lot of links. We can do the state
Oh.
website only. I would recommend any resident that watches a meeting and has more curiosity. Google's a great resource, as is AI. You can
Okay.
research a lot on your own, but we will definitely put the state link to the state.
That's all I
website
meant
on
was
it.
what
Yeah.
the state already had.
Let's just maybe put it in the minutes as opposed to the agenda, so you don't have to, does that make sense? Okay. All right, so what I'm hearing, if someone has got something they want to see on an agenda, we'll have the conversation, but we don't have a consensus in that direction yet. Okay, good. Fire department data service levels, possible future workshop. Sarah, is this yours or is this is yours, right?
I don't really think so. I think it came up at a previous meeting. I think maybe Andrea brought up service levels and then I had mentioned if we're going to do that, I wanted to talk about what kind of data we were collecting, but I don't know. Do you want to speak, Andrea? I don't remember how it got on here.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of the request for data and discussion during budget about service levels. And unless there's an issue, I for taking that off future agenda items. I think there are other things that staff could be doing.
Okay.
We
I
are
guess-
doing the mandated tracking or the indicated tracking. And so if it evolves from there, we can always go from there.
I guess I would like to actually, the more I think about it, Dan, I'd rather keep it, just because I did have a request that all of the various documents we currently have are compiled in an organized spot because they're very scattered throughout agendas. And there is like one document that I created that I don't think went anywhere and I never presented it. Maybe it's useless, but I do think as we're collecting data, data is only as good as whether we're actually getting the things we need to make our decisions. And for me, there were certain things we got and certain things we didn't last time. So I would rather if the data collection continues that we at least have some discussion about what's getting collected. I don't want to waste staff time. And I think it can end up being a really big waste if the piece that council actually needed isn't there. So I don't know if it needs to be a workshop. I guess I was thinking it could be a discussion item, but I guess the more I think about it, I'd feel better if we had one so that right now I have a feeling that we may be wasting staff time and I really don't want to do that.
I'd prefer that we, create like a shared drive on the Google Council Drive where all that stuff can live, but I'm not enthusiastic about a workshop about the data stuff outside of the budget cycle. If others, I'm happy to be in my commitment to servant leadership. I'm happy to take you wherever the council wants to go as a whole, but I'm not advocating for it.
Easy one. The council's great, but we'll create a shared drive for all of it.
Okay. Okay. That's a good start.
And the document that I made and sent to you and Dan only, I'll just assume that you'll either put it in there or if you decide it's not, you'll let me know and I can decide whether to bring it back. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. That's a good result. Code department presentation.
That's me.
Okay.
So there was some questions about how code interacts with the community, different thing that's happening. Kim's new, how things become projects. And I'm like, what a great opportunity, maybe just do a discussion. Does the council want to have a discussion with the code on how, what they do, what they don't do, what goes on the planning board? We've done the infographics. Councilor Quinn shared some thoughts on this as well, but I just felt it all tied together as maybe being a good timing. I suggested with what he said and what my ideas were, that we'd come back and ask you as a future agenda item.
Yeah, I'll just say what kind of initiated this conversation for me was some of the work of the home committee identifying, areas of growth and areas of, of improvement in the downtown, as well as, a frequent concern folks have just stopping by to say like, hey, this thing's going on in my backyard or in my neighborhood, and having that. I think it's helpful for council, and I think it's helpful to kind of have a resource to point to where you can say, yeah, that falls under this category, or this falls under that category, or here's who you can call and find out, would be helpful for me.
Kind of drawing a line, simple complaint or concern about versus what would go to the planning board versus how do you get a building permit? Just the different things. Just, I would say it's more of code compliance 101, 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes or so of a discussion.
Maybe Cody's next video.
I would say, is it a video? I'm thinking video.
Cody, big
Yeah.
YouTube rant.
I think it'd be a great video, honestly. I will.
Who's-
have to
That's
visit.
your,
Whose
rather
building
than
is he
we
gonna
put an
film?
agenda, we do a video and
What?
share
I
it?
said, whose building and project is he gonna film?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a video would be awesome, personally.
All right, yeah, so let's impress us. Yeah, yeah.
Does that meet your need, John, and what Home was talking about?
Yes, I do think I think a video would be great long term. I do think a 10-minute presentation might be a little bit less of an ask.
Okay,
Um,
so maybe we
but-
start with the presentation and then we get
Yeah.
a video. Okay.
But
This is what happens when you're good at what you do. You know, people keep coming back around. So that's why, you know. All right, that's everything. And if I missed, Andrew, you have anything else?
I do. I have one, I was approached at one of the local stores
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
in regards to sale of a product that Kratom, Kratom. It has an opioid compound. Orono doesn't have any rules or laws about sale of certain products, but I didn't know if that was something that we should look into as far as like on a local level.
We copied Clint on that, right, too? Does it make sense to just get a few minutes of staff time to give us a sense of what it is and what it? Thank you. All right. Does that work for you, Andrew? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thanks. I'm sorry I didn't have it as a bullet, but okay. Anything else that anyone needs anything else on between now and
I've got
August 10th?
7 more.
What's that?
He said 7 more.
It's Rob's got 7. Yeah. All right. Looks like there's no public comment in the room unless staff's got something they want to share. Cody, anybody online who wants to be heard? No hands raised. All right. Now we have D, items of executive session, and I think we're gonna have the first 2. We'll have actions after them. I always look at Mitch because he always knows this stuff cold. And we're gonna meet in here. We're gonna go in the heuristic room. Heuristic room? Yep. So thank you for those who've stuck with us, particularly staff in the room for a very long night. And but I'll take a motion pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056.
So moved.
Got any access to
Second.
real property or economic development? Got to move in a second. All those in favor?
Yay.
Don, we're all going in
Yep.
executive session. Thank you.
Hey, you
It's all that, I get nothing. Yeah, we're different. Okay, we are back in. Thank you, Cody. Orono Town Council's back in. I will take, this will be order 26-162, I believe. 158, sorry. An order authorizing the town manager to negotiate a purchase and sale agreement for 344 Main Street, subject to council review and final approval at a subsequent council meeting. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you to staff for bringing that in. Now I will take a motion before you get up and go again to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D regarding labor negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous, and we may come back out and act after this executive session.
At least it's summer and it's almost still light out.
I know.
Barely.
I know, but still, better than it might have been in January, remember?
This is one.
Yep. Or 159 or 160?
We're all members.
All right, so this is 159. Okay. All right, Cody, we're back in. Okay. I'll take a motion. Welcome back, Orono. I'll take a motion for order 159, order authorizing the town manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with AFSCME Council 93.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Now we're gonna go back into executive sessions. We will not be back in here, and we will not be back live on our broadcast. So that ends our evening tonight. In terms of the live, I'll take a motion to go back into executive session pursuant to
Second.
560 regarding labor negotiations. I heard a motion in a second. All in favor? It's unanimous.